Hi, everyone. Hi, Ray. Welcome to the kitchen.
Happy to be here. How you doing, David?
I'm doing well. I just remembered that I wanted to find, oh, I just found it. I got an email from Zoom with release notes for stuff that's coming, and I couldn't find it, but I think I just found it.
All I got was a note from Edelson that says it's explosive, and I think Frank will tell us all about it.
Well, he probably won't, actually, because it's not out yet.
But it is going to be explosive, right, Frank?
There's
apparently the comparison to what we did last week of the remote control is only this much of the bucket.
Really?
That's all he was able to tell me.
So I can't find the link with the email. Oh,
I
there we go.
put release notes in the chat.
Yes,
there's
thank
three
you.
different days worth of updates at least.
I don't know why I couldn't find it. All right, here we go. Yeah, but no, so this, oh, there we go, 16, 17, 18. All right, we'll jump into that in a moment. But yeah, there's a lot coming. And even before I got this, a little birdie over at Zoom told me, confirmed what Frank had said, that there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up. Speaking of Frank, hey, Frank.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm wearing green for St. Patrick's Day, which will be Sunday, right?
I have no idea. I'm so embarrassed to
No,
say.
it's all right.
I'm sorry. That's
March
wonderful.
17th every year, right?
Oh, is it March 17th? Shows you what an idiot I am. Happy St. Patty's Day to everyone who's celebrating. Oh, we need to make the rounds. Sorry, I'm focused. I already have questions, so I'm focused on that. So we said hi to Ray. We said hi to Frank. Gerald,
Yes, I'm
you
here.
look so comfortable.
I'm in my big comfy chair.
Big
I have the
comfy
clock
chair.
chair.
Reminds me of Blue's Clues. Wait, did you guys ever watch Blue's Clues with the big comfy chair? You doing okay?
Everything's good.
Fantastic. Fantastical. Jason, how are you?
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm good, thanks.
Do you have a news update for us?
Yes,
Because
I
of
do.
the background that you've got going on there?
I do.
There we go.
This just in. A couple of weeks ago, I had asked you guys if you were experiencing similar issues that I had with local recording and the webinar wallpaper and the mysterious 1610 border around a 16.9 content, yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? There's a ticket in, and the engineers have confirmed my results using my test script as well as a different one. So stand by and see what the fix is going to be. And same thing also for ignoring the mute switch when you have live performance audio selected as Zoom audio. So, yep, they confirmed, oops, we don't know how it happens yet. Stand by for a fix. So when you select live performance audio as your audio mode in Zoom, and you look down at your Zoom panel and you see the red microphone with the slash through it, and you think your mic is muted, surprise.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And so the only way to actually mute your microphone is to either go into your operating system and execute a mute. You could disable the device, of course. Or if you have a hard mute switch on your microphone itself, then your microphone will be muted, but it ignores the software switch in Zoom.
Okay. I'm sure it fixes on that. That's clearly an oops, as you said. Yeah. Clearly an oops.
That is all the news for today.
That's the news for today.
Back
Thanks.
to you.
Thanks. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hello, everybody. Doing good. Doing good.
Good. I have one follow-up from last week. So would someone be willing to let me do the remote control thing with them that we were playing with last week? Yes. Okay, Ray, thanks. So I'm going to, let me bring this up and so you all can see I've got it open here. I'm going to invite Ray. Ray then gets a pop-up, excuse me, and he can say yes or no. He's going to say yes, I hope. Actually, he has to click open and then he has
I got open in the chat and I clicked on that, but that's all I've seen.
So it should open the app. And then you authorize from
it's
within
hidden.
the app panel.
It's hidden because I have participants hiding over there. So
by the way, that's actually an interesting thing, right? Sorry. And I don't know if this is, if you can change these things or not, but the meeting chat and the participants panel cover up everything. You can never put anything on top of it.
This is even more curious because Josh Kaufman and I did an hour of this in after hours a couple of days ago, and that control revoke is still, it's hidden. It's so instead of being your collaborate, it's chat. So I'm going to get rid of that one.
That's interesting.
Request remote control. Now I can invite. That's curious. So
I'm gonna revoke this and start all over.
All right, let's do that. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. This is great.
It hung on from the other night.
That's interesting. All right, so I'm gonna click invite.
and that popped up as it did last time.
Okay, great. So now I have it. So here's the thing that, okay, so you can see that I can see, what he's using and da da da. So I'm going to change something, and you're going to get a prompt, but don't click the prompt. Like, don't do anything. So I'm going into original sound. I'm going to change it to Zoom background noise removal. Now so Ray has not authorized this, but on my end, it has changed. And so here's what's interesting. I was working with someone today. I don't know. I have no way of knowing if they've actually authorized the change. Right? Because I can't.
I have allow and don't allow in front of me.
Right.
And I have not allowed. That's interesting.
And so it's here. It stays on Zoom background noise removal, which I guess makes sense, but it limited how much I could help him because I could make all these changes to like I could change everything in here, and if he, like you, Ray, can't find the prompt on his screen, which was the case, he didn't see anything, and I'm sure it was hidden somewhere. I didn't know how to help him because I have no way of knowing if he's actually clicked something or not.
David, so what you're saying is that it'd be better if there was like a red dot and a green dot letting you know that
Maybe
some sort of indicator of some sort saying, you've asked and it's red dot, and get a green dot knowing that the change has been made.
Yeah, something like that. Or Zoom background noise removal requested, and then that goes away. I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Or red is off, yellow is pending, and green is accepted or something.
Yeah.
But as a great Zoom person, you're going to submit a feature request or a bug report, right? Because I bet you there's very few people using this, and you're probably one of the only people who knows about this bug.
Okay. It's not really a bug. It's just, all right.
The setting stick though. I mean, I see what it says in your panel, and I know that Ray hasn't acknowledged anything. Did the setting change? Yes or no?
No, because nothing changes unless Ray authorizes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the error is on the display side.
And each change he tried to make pops up as the change he wants to make. Like the current one is audio profile, Zoom optimized audio. Now they may be stacked because remember no, they're not stacked. So the only one that's pending in front of me now is to allow you to change that audio setting.
I wonder what this button does. So I just clicked this. I wonder if that is resetting everything. Okay, now let me actually make a change and you can accept it. So if you don't mind, accept that change.
This time it says you want to change Zoom optimized audio, and I'm going to click allow.
Right. So again, unless he tells me, I have no way of knowing he's done that. But now I'm curious, if I click this like refresh button, does
like
that
a redo button?
Right. I'm wondering if that undoes what I just, no, it doesn't.
It sends another request.
It's right. So it's resetting. So that's how I can know. That's one way to know. So again, I'm going to just, and again, don't accept this one. So I'm going to change Zoom background. Again, I'm going to put it back to original sound. He has not accepted it. Now, if I click this, it'll show me what he's actually on.
In this case, it's asked for two things: audio profile, original sound, and original sound on.
That's interesting. It gives both. So when you switch to original sound, it gives you both prompts to enable it on the back end and to turn it on the meeting. That's interesting.
I'm tempted to say yes.
I have a
because
question.
I'm a team player.
No, you can say yes now. I wanted to, so I guess the workaround to my problem is if I want to check and see, did he accept that, I can go up here and click the refresh button.
Right. But I think what Jason was going to mention is that you're actually potentially resending, when you do the refresh, you are resending that command to Ray.
It's redo, not refresh.
Right.
Oh,
Different.
oh, that's interesting. Okay, wait, let me try that again. So I'm gonna set, do you have too many pop-ups on your screen, Ray? Or are you, can you, like, are you gonna, if I send you another one, will you know that I'm sending you a fresh one?
Well, we'll test it.
Okay, so I'm gonna change it again. So don't click anything. You should have one, right?
Took over. I accepted it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me do it again.
You have to give me that instruction first.
I know. I apologize. All right, so I just sent him one. He doesn't accept it. Now, what we want to know is, are you going to get another one when I click this? Like, what does this button up here do?
Right now it says you want to change original sound and original sound on.
But did it say both of those before?
It said both of those, yes.
So you haven't gotten another request. So that doesn't seem to be what this button up here is doing.
Make sure there's not something hidden. No, there's nothing.
Interesting.
They need a tool tip. When you hover over a tool, it should pop up an on-screen UI element.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You know where it says Ray's name, Ray Franklin?
Yeah.
Next to the R, there's sort of a gear-looking icon. Is that just a decoration, or does that do anything?
No, it's decoration.
All right, that's also bad UI.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because right before you asked, I went over here to click it, and nothing's happening. So.
Ow! Stop that.
Sorry. Oh, it does do something.
I lived in an apartment for 7 years. Light switch, couldn't figure it out. And all of a sudden, some lady came in from Illinois and said, cut that out. I'll be here all week.
It was me clicking the gear. That's funny.
That would be Zoodoo instead of Voodoo.
Zoodoo.
Do so well. All right, so I'm not going to allow this, David. I'm going to don't allow.
No, you can do it. I'm going to actually disconnect so that I don't have control anymore. But
oh, I have a little sidebar if you're done with this, because this is a cute little sidebar I discovered.
All right, go for it.
And that is the color of the button, or whether it should be red, green, or what have you. Sitting on top of my teleprompter is a puck. And this puck is from muteme.com. And it is a tactile mute button, but not a very good one. And so what I did is, instead of using it as a mute button, I continue to use the button on my Stream Deck.
Oh,
that's very smart.
I have a tally light.
Wow. And that just connects USB?
USB to my computer. And it just sits, it's in the line of sight.
Wow.
Right there. And it's $39. And I should have had an affiliate link, but I don't. But all I have to do is use how I normally do it with my Stream Deck or my keyboard.
Wow, that's really smart. All right.
And it works. The software is so good that it works in a couple of different ways. It's got a list. So for Zoom, you need to put this cue. For Discord, this cue, because they have the software paired for each one of these. What is that guy doing back there? He's annoying. For each, sorry, Jason, each one of these softwares. So when I go over here to Discord and I turn let me put that back on, and I go over to Discord, wherever the heck Discord is, and I turn my Discord mic off. And that's just clicking on my Discord mic. So it's better than they think it is, but it's not a mute button. Can be as much as 3 beats late in turning it on and off, because it's just a membrane where you just touch it. Yeah, it's not good from that standpoint, but it's definitely worth it for me.
All right, I just ordered one. It's coming.
very clever.
Yeah, very clever.
It's
Nice.
just an accident. And you can have different colors, because I know Frank likes red for Go and green.
Can we have a talk about that?
Mm.
And you could program. There's like 40 different colors you could program
Really?
this. Frank. So I wish you a happy Green Day. Oh no, that's a band nobody wants to talk about.
That's a really smart hack, Ray. Thank you for that. What a great idea.
I have
will
a
have
color
one-
question.
A color question.
So you know how traditionally the security shield in the top left corner is green of a Zoom meeting? Lately I see it's yellow and I don't know why, or
And
orangey
mine's
yellow.
yellow. Mine's yellow now.
I don't know why.
So that has to be, yes,
Oh,
encryption, one
Encryption?
exception.
Right.
For the live,
Ah.
because you're live streaming.
If you'll click on it down underneath it in the box that pops up, it says one exception.
And then if you click on the one exception, it'll tell you what that exception is.
Right.
So
Cool, thank
basically
you.
this meeting is secure except for the fact that we're live streaming it. That's great. That's really interesting.
Another problem solved. Wow. this
Boy,
Zoom-
we are on fire today.
Do I segue into the encryption stuff that I told everybody in Discord before the show?
I would actually love you to, but can I ask Frank a quick question real quick?
Sure.
Real quick, Frank, just about submitting feature requests. Do you, because forgive me, I don't do it all the time. If I snip it from this Zoom test kitchen, that little piece of me demoing it, can I upload that? Can I attach that, an attachment to a ticket? Do you know?
I don't know because they changed the way they do it. Now in a Zoom meeting, there's a feedback mechanism, but you could open a ticket and you can add attachments, and I believe you can add hyperlinks.
You can, okay.
But I don't know how you're planning on doing it, so I don't want to say
Okay.
much else.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Mike.
No problem. Yeah, no, I just saw it and I didn't, it's not a huge issue because it's going to be fairly transparent for everybody, but it is an issue that is going to be gradually brought out by Zoom over the coming weeks. And again, if you looked at the link that I put in chat, that is the detailed information. David, I don't know. It's up to you if you want to pull that up or not. And basically the scenario there is that again, DigiCert, which are the governing body on the internet when it comes to allocating SSL certificates to the world, they have basically now, there are two different generations. So right now, as you would see, and I will, David, if you pin yourself and I can talk, I guess. Basically, they're going to be going into global root G2. And what G2 is basically generation 2. So basically, what ends up happening is that as everybody can see there, they're transitioning to it, and they're no longer going to be using the G1 certificates. Now, yeah, keep scrolling, David. So basically, the scenario is that David, actually scroll down to the very bottom, and then you'll actually see. Yeah, again, so there's the perfect thing right
Older
there. So
web
customers, yeah. So if you have an older web client, again, it's not the Zoom client, it's the older web clients, right? So now we're talking if you're connecting to Zoom via browser, right? So that's what they mean by web client, right? And you'll have to make sure that your browser is up to date. So this will be, so again, bad example, but if you're using an older Windows version like Windows 7, and you can only go up to a certain version of browser on that operating system, chances are your browser might not have G2 style capabilities of search available in the browser. So you will not be able to connect to Zoom once they implement the new certs, because those new certs are not backwards compatible to generation 1. And that's just a quick overview without going into too technical, but basically they're going to stagger it out. And again, of course, this will affect all the Zoom platforms, including Zoom.us, which is going to be last. And
I
they're
see
going to do
this
this,
being an issue for Chromebooks.
correct? Now, again, as long as your Chromebook is up to date and it's not an expired Chromebook, you should be fine.
I actually think it's going to be more of an issue for more people than we think. I was in a running a class last night with two speakers, and one of them, I don't know about the other one, but one of them who has done lots and lots of Zooms, was telling me she was having trouble getting on, and I said, "Well, did you type in the Zoom ID number into the client?" And she said, "No, I just would I click on the link and I just joined from the web." She didn't even know. She didn't even know that you could download a client or that you should download a client. And I wonder, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the stats are on, you know, how many folks actually download clients versus use the web. But that really surprised me, and I think that there are probably lots more like her that just use the web.
Yeah, it's very, very possible that eventually, right? Again, it depends on the operating system, and that is what Zoom is basically putting out there, is that they're saying, you know, okay, if you're on an older operating system, and again, it might be operating system based, it also might be web browser based, right? So the web browser can have it, but the operating system might ignore it. So there's that as well. So this could affect potential older OSs. I don't know enough about Macs to say, you know, do you have to be at least at this version? But I can tell you on the Windows side, Windows 7 is looking a lot less of a possibility, because even some of the browser companies like Chrome and such have stopped adding new security updates for older operating systems, right? So again, this is where your G1 versus G2 digicerts will come into play, right? Because again, Windows 10 should be fine, Windows 11 should be fine. Obviously, Windows X coming soon, whatever they're going to call it, coming soon. Chances are it's going to be Windows 11 still, at least this year. But basically, Windows 10, Windows 11, you should be fine, because again, as long as you stick with the major browsers of Chrome, Edge, Firefox in the Windows world, you should be fine, because they will have the G2 already incorporated in the browsers. But again, once you start getting off the beaten path to the other variants of browsers, then you might run into issues with them making sure that they are keeping up to the latest code of, you know, wherever if they're a Chromium version, which Edge is and Chrome is, then you'll have to make sure that they are keeping up with the latest version of Chromium in their browser, so that they have the G2 capabilities in the web browser. But you're right, David, there is a potential, depending on age of computer, age of operating system, age of browser. Yes, this could affect number of people, and it'll also affect them as well, going to the main Zoom.us website as well. So
Frank, when you're in a closed system like a university, can people join a Zoom from a browser, or do they have to use the client?
It depends on what the admin of the whole system sets up.
Oh, so you can require.
Yeah, you could say that you can only join from the client, but we don't do that. But
Interesting.
individuals can also say when you go into your own settings whether or not. I just had a lot of balloons go by. I think you can say whether
Wait,
or not
who did
to
that?
allow. I think
Was that
you
me?
did. Yeah, you gave
God,
the
I'm
can of
sorry.
peace symbol.
Oh God.
So,
I've gotta turn
anyways,
that off.
I think you can do that. Allow links to be open from a web browser. I think in your own settings, but they don't supersede the global settings.
Gotcha.
And then you know how we talked last week about how there's Zoom clients for government and healthcare. Those could be different, probably more restrictive abilities than the regular Zoom client.
Gotcha.
And typically slower update channels.
That's probably because they're being more cautious, right? They want to vet everything before they release new
Well,
stuff.
and if you think about government, you may have some governments that are up to date, you know, running the latest version of Mac OS or Windows OS, and then you may still have folks that, you know, have a Windows 10 desktop client with Citrix servers and la 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 la. So yeah, that gets a little squirrely to figure all that out when you go to pass certificates around.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, that was a great public service announcement. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I did notice it just before the meeting, so I thought it would be definitely, since it impacts the clients as well. Again, Zoom will make sure that they update the clients when they do it, but that's their problem. But when it comes to website or web, when they're updating their web servers and the potential people being able to click on a link and going to the US.04, in our case, David, I'm not sure what our meeting one is. It's either O2, US02 or US04 or US06. Those servers are on that list as well. So again, when you click the link, it's an SSL link that actually kicks into the client so that it comes back secure, right? So then you have to make sure that stays.
And what's the net effect of that to the user? They won't be able to join the meeting, or they will join the meeting and then they'll get a little yellow shield up there in the corner to let them know it's not secure, or what does it look like?
Right. Potentially, again, what ends up happening is it would be equivalent to like when you go to a website and you'll see that the security SSL is no longer, so it'd be a prompt that the site is not secure.
Okay.
Right? Because there's an incompatibility with the browser between there and the server.
So I know on my browsers, I have it set to prompt so that I'm aware of there being an issue, and then I have a choice what to do about it. One of them is proceed anyway.
Right. Right. So in this case, it would, if they've done it before, let's say they did it a day before they updated that server, then they came back and did another Zoom meeting the next day, they will get that error message because it'll be different. Right. So that might potentially, quote unquote, freak out people that normally do it, that have been able to do it and can't now.
Yeah.
Right. And again, of course, if they do proceed, then it's unencrypted. Will that affect them still connecting? No, but I don't know how much it would affect them actually doing the web client. Right. That might be a little more. Again, there might be a lot of extra calls that are going on in the web client.
Yeah.
Right, to different servers as well, right? Because they might be spreading out the load there in the web client. So you might get multiples of these popping up.
And that release table basically said April, May, June, I think is what it said.
Yeah, so everything should be implemented by end of April. Looks like April 20th.
March 30th to April 20th.
Yeah. So it'll be staggered, right? So you might, again, it depends on, like I was saying before, depends on the meeting link server. Yeah. So when you look at the actual URL, you'll see US insert number, right? So as long as you'll know that if your meeting has been generated, the generated link to your meeting is US, let's say it's 02 or 04, you know that as of this date, the US 04 as an example will be done the 30th, right?
Yeah.
So you'll know, unfortunately, April Fool's Day.
Well, and here's
you might
the
be
thing.
running into stuff.
I see a lot of emails and phone calls coming into my future because, as you support these meetings, and Frank, you'll know this one too. In the education world, what happens in April and May? Like that's peak season in academia, right? You've got your exams,
final exams.
Yep.
And
all
then
of
the
that
start
stuff.
of the next semester.
It is peak. So that's a real crappy time to all of a sudden be fielding a bunch of emails. I can't get in, or I get prompted with this security risk, or, what should I do?
They probably don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It'd be worse in September for me, but August, September would be a worse time than April, May, but they're all bad, but who knows?
Yeah, the only thing I can tell you from
Mike.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble understanding what this actually is. What's actually going to happen? Is this a hardware thing? Is this just a software thing? What is this?
Yeah. Okay. So go very light on the technical side because I can get in the weeds. So I'll behave myself because I used to set up
a weed whacker to it.
So from the very high level is right now there is a certificate on each one of their servers. thus labeled in the list. And they literally have to go into each individual server and take out the old one, shut the server down, put in the new one, start the server back up again. Does it sound like a lot? Yes and no.
When you
There's a lot more
take
to it
out
than
and
that.
put in, what are they? Is this a physical? This is a dumb question, I know, but I don't understand. Is this something physical?
It is a physical file to the web server.
It's a file. It's a file.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but it's a certificate file.
Okay.
Without me going into again.
No, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. It's not like it's not a hard drive.
Is it
No,
a
no, no, no,
handshake?
no. It's a physical file that they ended up getting from their certificate authority company. That DigiCert is sort of the overseers on the internet when it comes to the SSL certificate allowances, and then there are other companies that allow you to buy, or there's one that actually is free that allows you to implement those SSL certificates into your products and into your servers. Yeah, Ray.
Isn't it just a handshake? For most of us, it just means we can get a secure handshake. Isn't that really all I
Correct.
needed?
Correct. It is a handshake from a client point of view going to the server. But again, if your web server doesn't have the proper credential to meet the server credential, they'll clash. And this is why when Jason and I were talking, you would end up getting that pop-up that says, this site is not secure or the certificate is expired, which is chances are what you're going to end up seeing on the Zoom side is that you'll either have a compatibility issue or you'll see an expired issue. The browser doesn't get any smarter than that as a pop-up, because as far as it's concerned, it either understands the SSL handshake or it doesn't.
So all people have to be advanced noticed is make sure that your browser is updated.
Correct. And as long as your operating system allows you to upgrade your browser to the latest version of all the browsers that you have access to, you're fine. But if you do not, if you're on an older operating system that is using an unsecure, unpatched version of a web client, and there's people that are running Windows 7 and are limited to, I think the last time I was playing with Windows 7, which was a couple of years ago, I think the only browser that was still thinking about supporting them was Firefox. Yeah.
Yeah, that's now in extended support. Firefox
That's what Steve Gibson, my Sure Cure for Insomnia, uses.
Right. So again, when it comes to Chrome, forget it. Right. So he would have to only use Firefox if he's using a web client for Zoom.
But anybody would, yeah.
But I don't know that Firefox in extended support would support G2.
That's very good question too. That's up to Firefox.
That may not happen.
Mhm.
But bottom line, the user is going to get a pop-up on their screen that says this site is not valid, or this certificate is not valid, or they'll get a dummy down version. They'll get a red stop sign and warning, dangerous site. We can't validate. And then the user will panic and close the browser and not join the meeting.
Yeah. And again, this also happens too if you go to any regular website as well. You'll get these prompts where people that the administrator did not keep up to date with their certificate authority to make sure that they.
So David, you're going to have to update your certificate for your website too. That's coming. That's coming.
But that means they might already know about it anyway, because they browsed, to a major site that says, hey, you're in trouble. No.
Again, it depends on the administrator of those servers and what version of certs they are now utilizing. A lot of them, again, we're again slowly phasing out G1, going into G2. So it's up to the administrators. Let's put it this way: the certificate DigiCert will no longer be offering, from my understanding, G1 certificates when the certificate, because again, SSL certificates are renewed. You have to renew them constantly. So at renewal, you will not get G1 certificates anymore. You only get G2 versions of the certificates. So that's where the differences will come into play.
Okay, we have successfully gotten lost in the weeds.
I could go further.
Good
but I'm
job,
not going
Mike.
there.
No,
Thank you, sir.
well, hats off to you, my friend, for taking us down that. No, it's important for people to know.
It is, and it is. I don't. I feel bad for the administrators because I've done a couple of thousand servers, and it's not a pretty job. It's very meticulous, and you just got to make sure you don't break things. So yeah,
That's why, public service announcement, I don't deal with servers or any of that. I use the tools that other people provide so that I don't have to worry. Like my website, someone mentioned, it's built on Wix. I don't have to worry about it. Wix is going to handle that. Video conferencing, Zoom. Zoom's going to handle it. Live streaming, YouTube, I don't have to worry about it. Jason, what you got?
I wanted to ask a clarifying question on the remote control. When you were playing with it, David, you were requesting control of Ray's audio, but you can also request switching cameras, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. So actually, when I, Ray, can I use you again? When I send a request, it's not just asking for audio.
It's
Actually,
asking
Ray,
for remote control.
I don't know, Ray. Yeah, Ray. What does it say on your end, actually?
Oh,
you're
you're muted.
muted. Your mute button is red.
Okay, no, the control, David has asked for remote control of your Zoom settings. And then
of Zoom
down
settings.
the bottom, it lists audio, microphone, speaker, camera. It lists all the things that he can control.
And
So
so,
then-
Ray, if you acknowledge that, and then David, if you send a request to change.
So hold on. So he acknowledged that. So
Okay.
now what happens is he moved from my list up here
Yeah.
to down here. And now if I click on user settings, I can now see his camera
And
settings.
if you, so, and let's go to a different camera. Just pick something out of the drop down list.
Are you okay with that, Ray?
And then Ray, do you get
Wait, was that a yes? I didn't hear.
Yeah, Ray nodded, sorry.
Okay.
And Ray, do you get the approve or deny prompt like you did with the microphone?
Yes, I do. And it says, can he control my Insta360 link?
Okay, so that's different than how it used to be. And I don't know if that's an enhancement and an improvement or not. Because currently I can control people's cameras remotely. And so I'll have a facilitator and they're talking and then they're going to draw out a diagram. And so then I go in and I switch to their overhead cam that shoots down at the desk and you see their hand drawing whatever diagram they want. And then when they're done, I go in and I pop the camera back and then you can look at the person talking to you. And the presenter has to do nothing. And they're on the other side of the planet or wherever. That's currently in Zoom.
Jason, hold on. So just, can you walk through how you accomplish that currently in Zoom?
Yeah. So first you have to, as an admin, I know for sure, I don't know if it's possible at the user level. I'd have to double check. But there's a setting in there that basically says allow host to control. Actually, Zoom Test Kitchen has a similar pop-up when you join the meeting, allow host to control your microphone. And so it's a similar setting. And if you say yes, then
I don't think it's control your microphone. I think it's like unmute, right?
Unmute, but
Yeah.
it's the same type of in the admin settings of on the web page. It's in that same block.
Are you talking about far side camera control?
Far side camera control, yeah. And so I could switch that, and then the person on the other end doesn't have to approve every time I send that request.
Okay, so here it is. If you go into settings, I know it's a little small, sorry. And you type in camera, you get, it's under in meeting advanced. auto accept far end camera control. Allow users to add others to their camera control group. When a member request camera control, da da da. But then the basic thing is allow another user to take control of your camera during a meeting. Both users, the one requesting control and the one giving control, must have this option turned on.
That's for accessibility. There are people who have physical motor challenges. So you have a trusted list of people. Let's say you're confined to a wheelchair and you're not able to work a mouse or something. You can have a trusted list of people who can turn your camera on and off and that sort of thing, which is a little different than video conferencing far side camera control.
So wait, so where is video conferencing far side camera control? Is that
In video conferencing systems,
oh, I'm sorry, but
like
not in
Polycom
Zoom.
or something. Yeah.
But does this, I mean, it sounds like Jason's using it to the same end.
Yeah. But it was touted by Zoom as an accessibility option for people with physical motor issues who, you're a student and the TA does that for you. And the person who grants the permission can also take it away if you no longer trust that person or you accidentally grant them permission. That's what it was announced as, I think, 6 months or 8 months ago or something.
Yeah, so the way that I use it, I mean, for the presenter, they just can stay in flow, talking about whatever, and then they draw it out, and they don't have to stop what they're saying, find their toolbar, switch their camera, confirm that their camera, oh, okay, now let me draw out this diagram. They just do what they do, and I pop the right visual up on the screen for them.
So in a Zoom room or something that's more akin to video conferencing, real video conferencing, far side camera control quite often attaches to like an eagle eye camera or a polycam camera where it's a PTZ and you can steer the camera around the room to get shots or reframe if the person's framed poorly. And that's more of a professional video conferencing concept from the 90s. But different, but same.
So Jason, how is this different then?
Well, so this new way, now you're going to have the pop-up, and every request, my presenter is going to have to approve or deny. So they're constantly getting pop-ups on their screen,
right,
whereas
so that is
before that
changing.
didn't happen. That's changing.
It's not, let me take that back. It's not changing, but I was told that it is on the roadmap to change the way permissions are handled for this.
One thing,
sorry, go ahead.
Ray can confirm this, but I'm almost certain. When you allow this, Ray, like you said, you had a Insta360 that has PTZ, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I doubt that David could tilt or pan your camera doing this. It's more about turning the camera on or off, maybe adjusting the brightness. I don't think he can steer it around the room.
I actually don't think I can do any of those things. I think all I can do is choose the camera. Can we give that is your Insta360 fired up, Ray?
It is now, yes.
May I?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and, let me show this.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to pan tilt.
No, I don't think you will either.
Right, because that uses a different protocol that.
Far side camera control.
Yeah.
So I just asked for permission to change to the Insta360 link.
I don't know why that comes up. That's the dummy slug for Zoom.
Oh, that's interesting.
And my the icon for my camera has a slash through it, so I'm not able to control it.
It turned your camera off?
The icon
On
the bottom
says,
left has a slash through it that doesn't say anything, but it says I click on it and I can't open my camera. And for some reason,
weird.
I don't know why Zoom has gone to that picture, because that's my icon.
Well, what it's done is it's turned your camera off. That's what it's done.
Effectively, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Do you have any other cameras? I mean, you've got a lot of NDI stuff here,
I
but do you
have-
have any?
The NDIs are fine. Try the NDIs.
All right, so I'm trying NDI webcam video 1.
I have no idea what's in them, but nothing embarrassing yet.
Did you get a pop-up?
I did, and I approved it.
Yeah, it's not, let me go back to your OBS.
I clicked on allow to OBS.
But now why can't you, so it shows to me that your video is off also. Ask to start video.
Okay.
And you're a co-host
click-
also. That's
Yes, so it's
especially
just-
strange as a co-host.
Right. It started my video.
Well, it started your right, because I requested. So the video
I was not
settings-
able to, while you had
Right.
control, I was not able to start my video.
Right. But I can't start it either, by the way. I don't have on my side.
You had to ask permission, and I gave
No,
you.
no. It's, sorry, let me be clear. In the remote settings, so all I did in the remote settings was I went here, I'm not gonna do it again, and I said, change to Insta360 link, please. What that did is, as soon as you accepted it, it turned your camera off. Now, it didn't show me that over here. What it showed me over here is that you're on the Insta360 link. And then but what it did is it turned your camera off, and even as a co-host, it did not allow you to turn your camera back on until I asked you to.
Right, and that's the Insta360 link just to show you that it's still live.
Yeah. And now we also have I don't know if it's just me, but you're coming in so pixelated right now. Is that just me? No.
No, it was a mess. I saw it too.
So interesting.
But then if you're in a Zoom room, like an actual Zoom room, and you have like a Neat Bar or Logitech Rally, those are more professional PTZ style things that support far side camera control, where you can actually, if it's not auto tracking, you can say, hey, I want you to tilt, pan left. tilt down.
Conversely, can he request camera control through Zoom and just do it there?
I have to go look. I think Zoom supports far side camera control, but I haven't read about it for quite some time.
Somebody request camera control of my camera. Let's see if
How do you do that? I don't even see
Well,
that option.
Click
that
on
would
it.
also be first. You'd have to know if it's enabled in admin
oh, yeah.
for
Have
the
to
whole
find out, right.
system, and then
Oh,
But you find out as soon as you clicked on the three dots.
all right.
It was an option.
Yeah. Let me switch.
While you guys are doing that, I want to test one other thing. I'm going to leave the meeting and then come back in, and I'm going to acknowledge a pop-up that I did not acknowledge the first time. I want to see if that changes something. So I'll be right back.
Hey, Jason.
So far end camera control was not turned on for me. So I'm gonna just on this account enable far end camera control. The following settings depend on this setting. The change might affect them. Enable. Okay. All right. So I now turned far end camera control on. And Ray, do you also have it on your back end? Because remember, both parties have to have it enabled.
I don't see, somebody let John in.
Yeah, I got
Jason,
it.
please. Pin, I don't show that I have far end camera control, but that's on my camera, so I wouldn't
No,
have.
but but you have to have it enabled in your settings.
Oh, okay.
It says must, both users, the one requesting control and the one giving control, must have this option turned on.
Okay, didn't realize that.
I think that, I mean, clearly there's something broken in the remote settings here that, that it's shutting his camera off. That's not, just for, would anyone else be willing to let me see their
Okay,
cameras?
so this hasn't been fixed. So Mike, I'm going to thank you for acknowledging that. And I'm going to I'm going to stop camera control. Okay, I seem to have remembered this from a Zoom test kitchen quite a while ago, more than a year ago. So what happens is when I join Zoom and I'm in the web browser, yep, exactly. And then I acknowledge the pop-up that the host would like to be able to unmute your microphone, and I click allow. As an attendee, I'm not a co-host, I'm not the host, no magic wand, right? Okay, I'm an attendee. So I just came in and I requested Mike's camera control, and he allowed it.
So
I'm an attendee, he's an attendee.
I'm a
Can-
co-host.
Oh, you're a co-host. Okay. But I remember doing this one time with Tony. Like I say, it was like more than a year ago.
can you tell me, Jason, where are you requesting that? Where?
John, you're not a co-host, right? Yeah,
Wait, Jason,
okay.
where do you request far end camera control?
So I go to the thumbnails of the talking head. I just happen to pick John. I right click on it. I choose request camera control. John gets a pop-up.
I
If
don't
you
see
choose-
why do I not see that?
It might not be enabled in your account.
No, it is.
Correct.
I just enabled it. Is this one of those things that I might have to restart?
Yeah, if you just change the setting mid-meeting, possibly.
Okay.
But
You need-
I'm an attendee, John's an attendee, he acknowledges my request, and now I have a button on my screen that I can switch cameras.
Why is that a problem?
Well, I'll give you an example from the last meeting that I did this with Tony, and he had an iPad. So while he's using the camera facing at him, and I switched camera control to the forward-facing camera, and then I saw whatever was on his kitchen table at the time. And I'm just an attendee. I'm not a host, a co-host, or anything.
Right, but
like
he
that.
gave you permission, didn't he?
Yeah, there was a pop-up, right, John? You got a pop-up?
Yeah, but how many Zoom users who don't use Zoom every day would actually have realised the implication of that question?
But here, well, I mean, that's true. So
That's
if
why I asked last week if, besides the actual technical ability to do it, do you need internally to make some protocols, like at the beginning of your meeting, do you want to put slides saying, I may do such and such, or when you send out the meeting invite, are you going to say, hey, as the host, I may ask you for this, please be aware of the ramifications, just, because some people are so litigious these days, right?
Well, and it'd be one thing if it was just the host. Like if I'm the host of the meeting and I ask for camera control because I'm remote producing somebody. But here in the test kitchen, I'm just an attendee.
Sure.
Like that's shouldn't be.
Another problem I have with this is, so Zoom also has something that's, I'm probably going to call it the wrong thing, but basically it's remote session control, which is remote desktop control for support. So let's say I was trying to help you troubleshoot your computer and, you didn't know where to click the mouse and you gave me remote control. Now I have my mouse on your desktop, or I'm operating your mouse on your desktop, which has a very similar sounding name, remote session control, remote screen control. Now they've got, camera control, but they've also got far side camera control. If you're not savvy to all these different nuances, they sound very much like the same tools, but they do different things.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah, one is like tech support. What is it built into Windows operating systems?
Remote desktop
That's
protocol.
it. Yeah, that's it. So it's Zoom's version of that.
Yeah. Or remote desktop or team viewer or any of the different flavors of remote desktop, being able to remote into somebody's PC and start playing around with the operating system.
My point is the names sound very similar. Remote control and remote session control. That's pretty similar for someone who may have a casual interest in Zoom, right?
Hmm.
And my issue, thinking of Frank, is that I may want to be able to have those things enabled when I'm running a Zoom session that I own in my account that is my organization. But I wouldn't necessarily want that option to be available for people to control me when I join another Zoom event run by another company, another organization to whom I, dropped in on a webinar. That sounds a little bit dodgy.
Well,
A little bit too generous, shall we say?
In Zoom's defense, like a pop-up appears on your screen and you can decline it. Like you did say yes, but for people who are pretty casual Zoom users, they may not really understand the implications of what they're agreeing to, right?
Yeah, it's the old problem that Zoom has now. It's getting so clever and so complicated that the average user is not going to even understand these features are available, let alone what to do with them.
So yeah, I agree. Like I have a team of people who facilitate meetings on behalf of people, and I'm going to introduce this functionality to them probably next week, and we're probably going to have an internal conversation first about the benefits versus the risks and all that sort of thing. But I know that they would probably like to do it because it can be very frustrating when you're facilitating a meeting for someone and you're not even a participant really, you're just a technical facilitator, and someone on the far side's having a lot of problems figuring out how to turn their camera on or off or their microphone, and you think, oh, I could just take control and do it for them. Seems really helpful, right? But there's also negative consequences that are possible. We'll have to have a meaningful conversation around that.
So I just got a request from Jason to control my camera. Now, again, this is all, none of this is happening.
That guy's a bit dodgy.
None of this is happening in the remote settings app. This is all the one that has been there for a while.
From your Zoom toolbar, yep.
Yeah. From my Zoom toolbar. Where's my Zoom toolbar? What do you mean?
Your in-meeting toolbar, the one that says share screen, chat, participants. Like it's built into that functionality. You right click on the thumbnail of the person and you can request the camera. So David,
Right,
if
so
I switch your camera,
yeah, go for it. Go to the
let's see what it does. So it goes to whatever the next device was that was plugged in, getting a cogwheel, and then I could switch it again. You probably
so
have
you
like
can't
3 or
choose
4.
you
No,
can't choose the camera.
no. And I'm guessing what it does is it's going down through the list of all the devices that you have in as a camera or virtual
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's a real camera, but the shutter is closed, I'm guessing.
No.
And
Okay, I have no idea what that is.
and then I'll hit it one more time. How many you got in the list?
I don't know.
And does it go back to 1? That'll be interesting. There's an Ozbot.
That's an
I guess.
Ozbot, yeah.
But my
Okay.
now that wait. Now that's interesting because my OBSBot is turned on. I'm looking at it right now. It's active.
David has gas.
Well, yes, I do. But
Gear
why
acquisition
are you not getting
syndrome.
a picture?
Yeah, because we're getting the icon that says no video.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. And in fact, I could manually switch to it.
Did you have the is it lit up? You get the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been turned on to stop video from the previous video source, which was not available?
No.
Oh, that's a good one, John. That's
What you did to me when you flipped through mine and there was some that didn't exist. You put me in a stop video situation.
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm not. My video is turned on. My
Turn
OBSBot
it,
is
David.
working.
Toggle it. Turn it off, and then just hit the stop video and then the start video.
Okay. Stop video, start video. Video is turned off.
Now we see Zoom Test Kitchen icon, and now we have Ozbot
Yeah.
icon again. Okay.
Interesting. Now I'm just curious, how do I take control back?
I'll stop in just a second. So I just have the button switch camera, and yes, it does go back to 1. Okay,
Right.
so it runs through your list of whatever devices you have currently active in there. and it does roll back to 1. And now let me
So, oh
find
dear
you in
God,
gallery view.
back up, back up,
Okay.
back up. Thank you. Now that's, oh wait, now that didn't work. Wait a second. Oh, you didn't scroll all the way back.
No, I
Sorry.
just have a button that says switch
No,
camera.
I know.
And then it goes through the list.
So now, yeah, so now you're just grabbing from my black magic. There are 2 ob spots. That must be why. I don't know why there are 2. There are 3 ob spots.
Okay.
I have no idea. So this is the ob spot and it is working, but it's interesting. So on both the far end camera control, and in the app, there seems to be some quirkiness around getting these cameras to work. I still am curious if so when you, but the op spot wasn't turned on. You do get controls to move right or to pan and tilt and stuff like that.
No. All I get is a button on my screen that says switch camera, and then it's got a little swirly icon next to it. And basically, I just hit that button and it goes through it doesn't give me a list. I have no idea what's plugged in. I just have a button that says switch camera. And if you have 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 7 cameras, every time I hit switch camera, it goes down to the next one on the list.
Because it says here that if you have a camera with PTZ capabilities, which presumably the OBSBot should qualify, then you would get those controls, but you couldn't even get it to turn on. So
Joe Phillips just said if you switch to a camera in Zoom that is being consumed by a switcher, it will be black.
a camera in Zoom that is being controlled by a switcher?
That makes sense.
I don't understand. What, like a physical switcher, like an ATEM? Because that camera worked. That's the one camera that actually did work, is my Sony through the ATEM. The OBSBot is just direct. It's just a USB camera.
Right. Now, David, did you install all the drivers for it?
I don't know.
Okay, because
That may be why there's 2
Mike,
OSBots.
stop laughing at me. What I plug stuff in and it either works or it doesn't. I don't.
oh, Ray loved that one so much.
Yeah,
he had
right. He got
balloons take
balloons
off.
on that one.
Put that on his tombstone.
Interesting.
So
So
that may
I-
be why you have 2 OSBots in the list, David, is because maybe the drivers didn't fully finish installing the first time you did it, and then the second time you did it, everything was correct.
Well, I'm not playing with it because the OBSBot software has been a disaster for me. So
There's also firmware updates for the OSBot occasionally.
there are, and they never actually take on the Mac. It's been a real.
Worked for me the last time I did one.
Yeah, but you're special.
No, but I haven't tried it for a while, so I don't know.
Let me see if there's something.
I have an OSBot in my prompter and it just went wacky-doo. And I can't bring it back to life unless the OSBot I can't use the remote unless
Yeah.
the software is active.
Oh, you got the remote. I didn't
Yeah,
bother
but I
with
thought
that.
it was easy because I didn't know that I had to worry about once I had the remote, I didn't have to go to the screen where the software is. But so I don't, but I have to have it displayed or the Akamai thing doesn't work.
Gotcha. So one difference between oh, sorry, I'm still on this thing. Between far and camera control and remote settings, when everything's working, is that you get this nice little list of cameras,
Yes.
as opposed to just scrolling through.
That is
So
nice.
That is nice to be able to see all the different cameras.
And
and
then
it
the
might
other
see-
person has to approve. Every time you switch a camera, they get an approve button where that doesn't exist right now. I just hit switch camera and you don't have to do anything.
I wonder if this functionality will replace far and camera control.
Yeah,
eventually.
that's why I asked the question, right? Because it changes my workflow. Because like right now, like I say, I know my person has 2 cameras, and so I just hit switch camera, and boom, boom, everything works. They don't have to approve everything. If this workflow, they get a pop-up every time, it's going to be a little clunky.
I don't think it would, but maybe they'll merge the two things eventually. But I mean, far side camera controls really, to me, in my mind, is about controlling a PTZ, not, and the other one isn't the one that we.
But I'm just wondering if they'll build the PTZ control into this. I mean,
Oh,
this
they
is
might.
such
They
a
might.
better interface. Yeah.
They might.
Yeah. By the way, this is what happens to me every time I try and upgrade my HubSpot. Upgrade fail. I get 5%, 7%. It's usually 7%. Upgrade failed. Please try again later. Every single time.
Could I please apologize to Zoom for suggesting that they're insecure and whatever? When I read this settings section for auto accept far end camera control, it says allow users to add others to their camera control group. When a member of the group requests camera control, they will automatically take control of the user's camera. Group members can be added or removed in team chat or contacts. So there is a level of protection there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be for trusted people, and you have the ability to revoke the permission if something changes.
Okay.
But how did that happen in this meeting? So in Zoom Test Kitchen, I click on the link, I get the web browser, then I get the little pop-up that says host would like to be able to unmute your microphone at will. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it said. I said, okay. Then I go into the waiting room. Then I come into Zoom Test Kitchen as an attendee, and now I can right-click on anybody and request camera control for them. David didn't put me in any group list or any permission list. I'm just an attendee.
I think
Yeah.
that
Ah,
group list,
that's-
though, John, is just for people that are like, I have the Zoom phone thing, and there is a team chat that is our group. I don't think that's the case in the test kitchen, is it? I didn't see any way I could create a group unless you're in the same team.
Well, don't worry about it, Ray, because Jason was able to request and get control of my cameras and change them. And in my settings, far end camera control is not enabled on my account.
Ding.
Correct. Same here. When Jason did that too, same here.
That's a little crazy.
That's why I was saying about having a rules when it's your account in your meeting and somebody else's account in their meeting. It looks like, well, I don't know who's in charge and who has priority.
And
Yeah,
by the way, I did it during this meeting, but I do have it enabled, and I can't even request control of anyone. I have no option for that.
And the pop-up said nothing about camera control. It only said microphone.
Which pop-up?
If anybody from Zoom wants to ever come on to the show and talk to us about these kind of things, I'd love to hear someone with insider knowledge.
Our secret back channel is not connected today.
That's fascinating, though.
So for, when I join your meeting and it says the host may request the permission to unmute you,
That pop-up.
I know that I can go into my preferences, examine who I've given those rights to, and revoke those rights. So I wonder if there'll be something similar for camera control.
But we're not part of as far as I know, we're not part of a group, right? Zoom Test Kitchen is come one, come all. Here's the link. And then when you click on the link, it launches your web browser. You click on the blue button that says join meeting. Your client launches. You get the spinning wheel. Then you are put into the waiting room. You get this little pop-up on there that Frank talked about where it says host would like to be able to unmute you. You say, yeah, okay, sure, fine. And you think you've just let the host be able to unmute you. What you don't know is, as an attendee, I can request camera control of anybody else that's in this meeting.
Yeah, but those two things aren't connected.
Oh, but they are, because when I did not acknowledge that pop-up and I said, no, I don't want David to unmute my microphone, I may not request camera control of anyone else in the meeting. So
Really?
that pop-up, regardless of what it says, What it does is it allows remote control of camera.
Huh.
It allows me to switch the cameras that are listed in the list of available devices. I don't see a list.
If the other person gives permission.
Yes, right. They do get They do get a little pop up.
Can
Once.
Interesting.
Can I screen share quickly?
Yeah, please.
So, people who can unmute you manage. So I went to my, my settings, advanced settings. So one thing I've noticed is I had a whole list of Zoom Test Kitchen in here a few weeks ago, and I cleaned out 2 or 3 of them. Now I've got 2 or 3 more, which I don't understand why it adds it so many times. But
Is
might
it
just be a
doing it?
bug.
But Frank, once you do it for one meeting, isn't that persistent for all other meetings from the same?
I
Zoom
don't
ID?
know. I'm not certain. I'm assuming you use the same meeting ID for each of these, right?
I do, yeah.
So I don't know why it's like I had about 4 or 5 of them at one time. I cleaned a bunch of them up, and now it's starting to build
Are
them up
you
again.
Are you asked every time you come into this meeting to give permission again?
I haven't paid that close attention. Maybe
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
I'll stop screen sharing.
Huh. By the way, a little birdie has mentioned that the bug that I don't know if it's a bug or not, but that using the remote settings control app that I have no way of knowing if you've actually accepted or not. That is a known limitation right now of the framework that they're using, and that arrow thing in the top, that is not a resend, that is a refresh button. So that if you're unsure if they've actually taken advantage of your invitation to change their audio, that's what will help you for now, until the framework is updated,
Cool.
which is great to know.
Feels like a V1 release. It'd probably get better over time.
Yeah, it sounds like you're right. Yes. I was excited to try it this morning when I had this guy on, and I was trying to help him. Incidentally, but this is kind of a Zoom thing. This one guy, I meet with him often. He's got one of those ultra wide monitors, like I don't know, however big, and screen sharing with those is awful. I can't see anything because it screen shares the entire screen, which is why I don't have one of those. I have lots of little tiny monitors. That's what I like.
We had, David, if you remember, we had that problem with Jeff too.
Oh, does he have an ultra wide?
He had an ultra wide, and he had to make sure
right.
when he was sharing, he used his smaller one versus his ultra wide.
Oh, I had forgotten that. It's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to, I know you can obviously share an app, or I wonder if there's a way to like share a part of a screen.
You can share a region.
Can you?
Pretty
In
sure.
Mac.
Oh, is that a
No,
Mac
in Windows
thing?
2, portion of screen.
Portion
Here
of
we
screen,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, so you go to share screen, and at the top you go from the basic to the advanced tab in Windows.
Oh, portion of screen.
Portion
Here I
of
can
screen.
show. Yeah. So here it is. So let's do, this is what I should ask him to do from now on. Share, and then it lets me drag this around. Can I resize it? Yeah, you can. Oh, that's really nice. Look at that. I didn't know that was there. Thank you for that. And you said that's only on Mac?
No,
No.
Windows as well.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so for your
That
ultra
is
wide guy,
great.
that's the workaround.
That is great.
Good
Thank
idea
you
if
so
on
much.
Fridays we could get together and work these things out somehow.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. What are you doing today? Wait, I need hold on. Do I have
Robert's been experimenting today. Have you got something to report, Robert?
I have a
Drum
question
rolls?
if Robert doesn't. A question from the web. Go ahead, Robert.
No, please carry on, because I'm going to be speaking about things that I've been doing.
You sure? All right, so I'll just
Yep.
throw this question in. So this is from, oh goodness gracious, I just lost it. Hold on a second. The question, oh, here it is. In a meeting with 8 participants, the gallery view normally shows as 3-3-2, top to bottom. Is it possible to force it to 2-3-3? Is
He
there a
brought
way
that
to?
up last night. We couldn't figure that out.
Oh yeah, you saw that one last night? Yeah. So is there a way to essentially not change the order? That we know we can do, but change the number of people in each row.
He wants to be able to have 2 at the top, 3-3-3 instead of 3-3-2. He had a reason for it, client request, and they're always right.
You know what I might, you know what I might do in that situation, if you can't force it, which it sounds like you can't, is I would bring in a dummy machine with maybe a logo or something on it, and then put that in the top next to the 2. So then you've got 2-3-3, but just this, one
Placeholder.
corner is held up, yeah, by a placeholder. I don't know if that would actually help, but and then you can force that view into everyone.
It almost sounds, isn't there a way to do that in like the virtual
You
setting?
can do that with Production Studio.
In Production Studio, but you can't use Production Studio on meetings. So it seems to me like he was asking specifically for a meeting. Yeah, in a meeting with 8
Can't
participants.
you use Production Studio in meetings when it's on? If you create it as a sessions?
Wait, am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I've not tried it. It's a thing that I need to find out sometime soon.
I may be completely wrong. I may have gotten that mixed up with events, because it's only in events and or sessions.
It doesn't work in a meeting.
It doesn't work in meetings? Okay. Thank you, Robert.
Sorry, I saw something else. I can hear.
No,
So
no,
you'd have to
sure.
run a webinar and make them all panelists, and then they wouldn't know they weren't in a meeting.
Right. All right. So seems like that's the answer to that. There are, though, and we don't have to jump into this now, but just so you know, if I'm reading it correctly, there are some changes coming to the way meetings look, according to these release notes, including wallpaper and stuff like that, which someone was just asking me about the other day, actually.
Wallpaper in meetings?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm reading it correctly. I mean, someone correct me, but here's from the release notes. Meeting hosts can customize the wallpaper in their meeting. You can upload your own, or you can use presets. And then you can also decide how much you want to blend the participant videos with the wallpaper image.
I'm not surprised. I mean, the webinars seem to get the advanced features and then, events, and then they trickle down, so it keeps the product moving forward.
Yep. Oh, and if you didn't hate virtual backgrounds enough, AI generated virtual backgrounds are coming. So
Yeah, you hate them, but lots of people love them.
oh, lots of people do, of course.
And, when you're comparing different platforms like WebEx, Zoom, Teams, and you're putting out an RFP or something, the more of these things that you can put a check mark next to as a company, the more sales you might attract, right?
I have to say that my working groups, hobbyist groups, the ones that meet only 2 or 3 times a year, the medical groups, they absolutely love having customized backgrounds for their group, and all that sort of thing.
Branding.
It really gets them really quite excited when they get there. They spend ages getting their logo, and now they get to use it.
In the corporate environment, they also love them as well.
And I think that for some, it's not really government, but well, I guess it is government organizations, education boards, things like that. I've noticed that a lot of them, it's almost, I don't know if they mandate it, but I think they probably do. They mandate it for their employees whenever they join a meeting that they put that up, especially if they're not working from the office.
What else is in the release notes? There's 3 different days of release notes.
Yeah, I know there's a lot. This is
I've read them all, but I'm just prompting you.
Oh, thanks. So we've got, let's back up here. So that was, I was looking at March 18th. Let me back up. Okay. So March 16th is that tomorrow? That's tomorrow. Not much in March 16th. There is create multiple direct links, join links for one speaker. So this is Zoom events and Zoom sessions. That's what this update is for.
Yeah, that was because you could have a Zoom event and the speaker only had one link to get into one place.
Right.
And when it was shown as a problem, they suddenly fixed it very quickly. Thank you for doing so. Because you may be an attendee in one session during an event, and you may be a panelist in another. And if you can only have one link, then you're stuck.
There's some improvements to how you get your data, how you get to keep your data if you downgrade. Some analytics. Recording view metrics, pair with Zoom rooms for attendees, enhancement to calendar invitation privacy and accessibility in Zoom events. There's a big change coming to the way the client looks, actually, if I remember correctly, about they're merging meetings and calendar, I think, or something like that. We'll get to that. And then a bunch of developer features. This is actually a big one for events. This looks like a big release.
So one thing I find interesting when I read these notes, like you may not use these platforms or these tools, but quite often this stuff trickles in to meetings later on. So reading what happens here can maybe give you some insight into what we might see in meetings later on.
Yep. This is interesting. Session light event type. Host can create a baseline webinar Zoom event. The event type is a session light event type, and it will have a minimalistic attendee experience, no lobby, event detail page, moderation, ticketing, or event branding. Session light events will only include a link to registration form and join link to the session. How is that not just a webinar? I'm confused. Maybe
because that would probably stop me having a 500 seat license for webinar and then run all the features of Zoom sessions with only 100 seat license of Zoom sessions.
Wait, what?
It'll also give you access to Production Studio, which isn't available in webinars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is basically adding a simple webinar to events, which before didn't exist.
Yeah, let me tell you the problem. I don't know about you, John, but our clients and really smart people have a lot of problems getting into sessions, especially as speakers or panelists. And if you have cyclical events, you get into a bigger mess. So this, I think, is a simple way of going back to get into the meeting just like you used to do in a webinar, but you have the functionality of this production studio. I think it's a good move, actually.
Yeah, you're right, Robert. The ticketing and all that palaver is not needed for a lot of customers, and it just makes an obstacle for using this thing, which is why I've been running most of my events as webinars. But I have a sessions license, so I can use some of the sessions features within the webinar but I've given them all the webinar experience because I've registered it in webinar.
Interesting.
That's exactly what I'm doing, to tell you the truth.
But I've been warned in three different groups that is not going to be possible soon, and I believe that's what Light is going to be. It's going to be effectively a product they're going to create to stop me using both ends. They're going to give me something in the middle, which will give the features of webinar and some of the features of sessions.
I guess it really depends on what your production flow is, because there are situations where I just use the production studio to stream, and it becomes very simple in that way. And I'm also seeing more and more situations where we can give a closed stream on YouTube or Vimeo to participants. I know it doesn't resolve all of the ticketing stuff, but it works in a very simple way, and people prefer the simple ways. You have the link, you get in, and you watch it, and that's it. David, you look very confused.
Sorry, no, I'm
And
No, I'm
stuck in
just-
thought.
no, I'm thinking about, I'm scanning through the rest of these notes, and I'm just, I've never used or lived in events or sessions. I mean, this really is a huge update to those platforms.
I don't think you would personally survive in a webinar environment, because you're a person who needs contact with other people.
No, absolutely. And no, you're right. And that's why I much prefer to do everything in meetings.
That's a good subject to discuss sometime.
Yeah.
One of the things that is a problem with sessions is that the backstage is not supported currently by the browser version. It is going to be, they say in the summer, but it isn't. So I had a speaker last night who was given the link to be a panelist, but couldn't get to backstage, had to stay on the panel with their microphone off, couldn't really communicate much to us, except for our chat. And of course, the browser is harder to do screen sharing and things with, so it caused a hiccup, knocked their confidence a little bit. They made it up after a while, but it is annoying. But on the flip side of that, it is quite amazing when you've had a go at it not being in the browser. It's quite amazing how many of the features are supported by just a browser version of Zoom. Because almost everything you can do, polls and quizzes, polls and screen sharing and all chat, all the features are there just in a browser version.
Yeah, I agree.
Lots is missing though. If you go to the Zoom support site and type Zoom client feature comparison, the further away you get from the desktop, the worse the experience gets. And if you're doing anything of significance or that's important, I always advise people to download the desktop app and do it from a computer and do it from the desktop app.
I would agree,
Zoom,
but
I'm
there's
just
a lot
pulling
of blockage in the corporate world in the UK by Microsoft that's blocked people running Zoom. So a lot of the medical conferences that I run, if the medical person doesn't have access to a laptop of their own, then they do find it very difficult to get it installed on their office computer.
Sure. I don't know if this has any value for you, but that at least you can send them the table and say these are the limitations you're going to encounter. If any of them are important, you should think about it.
I'm looking at the list. I'm with you, Frank. I mean, always use the client, but there actually isn't. So this column right here is the desktop browser. What's the web client? Wait, what's the web client versus desktop browser? Because that makes a big difference. Does anyone know?
I think the web client's to do with developers' versions. So building something with a web client, I think, is where the developers come in.
I mean, because desktop browser, even if we don't read, it has almost everything. Remember, this is the column here. It's missing allow participants to start or stop a recording. It's missing some start a whiteboard, share.
Now you're starting to lose important stuff though, right?
Yeah. Annotate on a shared screen or whiteboard. Show or hide names of annotators. I mean, that's kind of it though. I mean, not to say those aren't important. They are, absolutely.
Yeah, but my statement was the further away you get from the desktop client. So if you're on Chrome, if you're on iOS or Android, the further away you get from Windows or Mac desktop client, the worse and worse it gets.
Yeah, on mobile, I mean, it's almost, if you want to do anything other than watch, there's really just not much you can do there.
Can I put this back into perspective? Sorry, Frank. We're talking about Zoom that has hundreds of things available. Try Microsoft Teams and compare that. You'll suddenly look up at Zoom and say, wonderful.
I was made to compare Teams and Zoom. I don't know. I want to say in the late, before Christmas, a few of us at work were compelled to do this as a cost analysis thing, and Teams does a lot of all. We couldn't find many things that Teams didn't do that Zoom did, but style and elegance is hard to score on a Rubik's pundit cube table thing. So it was hard to kind of convey because we couldn't say that they couldn't do it. And it also depends on your team's license. There's a lot of different Microsoft Office licenses, but it's hard to say that it won't do it, and it's hard to describe how inelegant something can be on a table.
And I'll also throw out that this week in the rumor mill, well, it's not in the rumor mill, but if you are beta testing the latest version of Windows 11, there is Teams client number 4 that has come out, which is now combining the home and work into one app. So that is coming soon. So right now there's 3 versions. So there is now officially a 4th version in beta, and which ones will that kill in the coming months? We'll see. So that's the fun world of Teams.
But Frank, you said, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The question isn't what is there, it's how it works. Sometime back at the end of last year, I did training for a sign language association, a very big one in Europe. And first we did Zoom, then we did WebEx, and then we did Microsoft Teams. For the Zoom, we spent about 90% of the time on the sign language work. On Microsoft Teams, we spent 90% of the time on figuring out how Microsoft Teams works. Yeah, and even though people use it, I mean, you start off from the Mac users who have an issue trying to get on into a Teams meeting. When they finally get in, then you've got, I mean, Microsoft Teams works on a completely different sort of mindset in that the user knows what he wants and he sets up his screen the way he wants to see it. In Zoom, there's a much more simplified, but a much more usable layout that allows people to see what's being given to them in a very simple form. I mean, the sign language on Zoom is like magic. The sign language on Microsoft Teams, you got to really struggle as a user to figure out how to set up the layout of your screen to be able to benefit from it.
I agree.
Yeah.
But, at my institution, we're a Microsoft school, so we already have Microsoft Office 365. And then to convince the people who pay the bills that we also need an additional thing that seems very similar to them. And, the problem is they often don't use the tools, and they certainly don't support the tools as tech support. They don't understand all the encumbrances and all the nuances. So on paper, do they both stream? Yes. Do they both have breakout rooms? Yes. So forth and so on.
So what was the value add that you sold, Frank?
So in my area of industry, we don't feel Microsoft Teams is a good tool for teaching. It's a good tool for meetings, for business meetings, for other kinds of things, not necessarily an easy tool to teach with. So we get a special budget allocation because it's for teaching. But let's say, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but the manager class often really like the integration with their Microsoft OneDrive and their spreadsheets and all the things they use on a regular basis. And that, the chats and the files that are shared all go back into the Teams folders. And that's something that, it's a sort of a cultural thing where you've got half of an institution that's delivering content versus people who are more managerial and have different value sets, right?
Which is precisely why Zoom is working on Zoom Docs, and I'm sure Zoom spreadsheets and Zoom Drive and all that other stuff, so that they can bridge that gap.
There's also Microsoft integrations with Zoom.
Yep. Robert,
David,
did you?
you still love your Google Docs, don't you?
So I do. I do. I do. Yeah.
Quickly, how long have you been using Google? 20 years? More, less?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they always say, when you capture somebody for any product when they're young, you're going to have a lifelong allegiance to it. So, I think Zoom and all the companies are trying to make a holistic approach. And then as you capture younger users, maybe they'll never migrate away, right?
I was actually working on something today. I needed to have a photo and then text, but multiple pages, different photos and text. And it's just in Google Docs, it's not as easy as it could be. And I actually thought of going over and using, I'm embarrassed to say, Canva Docs, because at least over there it's or not Canva Docs actually, but just Canva, because I don't know. Well, look, would I switch away from Google Docs? Sure, I would, if the alternative has all the functionality. And the much bigger if is, how easy is it for me to get all of my stuff over to this new platform and not have to reformat everything and not, all of that. I have, as I'm sure most people do, probably hundreds of thousands of docs and things, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but you know what I mean. So.
Are you sure about that, David? Because the transition isn't that difficult. It's the learning curve that's more difficult.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Look, if Zoom Docs is better, well, first of all, even if it's not better, I'm going to use it. The question is, do I move everything over to it? That's really the big, the big question.
David, baby steps would be the answer.
Yeah, it absolutely would be the answer.
The thing is, for a lot of people, you have to use what your employer mandates or your organization mandates, and you don't get a vote as a regular person in that organization.
No, absolutely right. I'm very lucky that I'm my own boss, so I get to choose whatever I want, play with whatever I want.
David, we have a question from YouTube.
Oh, lovely. Can I just say hi, James? I didn't say hi, James, before. And hi, John. I didn't say hello to John. I'm so sorry. And hi, Mimo Live. And hi, Robert Second Machine. It's nice to have all four of you here. What's the question from, that you put it in the chat.
I did.
Go ahead.
All right. If a panel, this is from Josh's Tube on YouTube. If a panelist uses the meeting ID and password to join when logged into the panelist email, will they join as a panelist or attendee?
Attendee, I believe.
Can someone just clarify the question? So when you're logged, you're logged into Zoom as a panelist. No, sorry. You're logged into Zoom with your panelist account, and you use the meeting ID and password, I guess, as opposed to clicking on the link. Is that the question?
No, that can't be the question because you
No.
can't have a panelist account. You're either the license holder and you're the person who's set up the account.
No,
and
I
then
think the situation is, Robert, because I've had this situation a couple of days ago. You have an account in your name, so you have a Zoom account. Somebody sets up a panelist link for you to join the meeting, but instead of using the panelist link to join the meeting, you join the meeting as an attendee using the general attendee link. And I believe that you are then joined as an attendee.
That is correct. That is exactly what happens.
And if you want to be a panelist, you're going to have to be upgraded to panelist, and then you can carry on as a panelist.
Or you use the correct link.
Or you use the correct link. Yeah.
Did I just shut I just shut off. Sorry. Panelists in webinar have a different link than participants?
There are three classes of people effectively. There are hosts and co-hosts. There are panelists and there are attendees. Attendees you wouldn't like because they have their camera off and they just sit there and watch. Panelists are like having a Zoom meeting qualification, so they can turn the camera.
But those three tiers each have a different link to join?
Well, if you take that Zoom hosts do have a different way because they start the meeting. Yeah, panelists, what you do is you go in and you can register, or you can register panelists, and they get an email sent to them with an individual panelist link, which brings them into the panelists. And also, if you're running backstage, you can get the panelists to join, and they will join in backstage. So they'll come straight into backstage, whereas a normal attendee will appear as an attendee. Gotcha. We have sponsors for our meetings. I don't let them into backstage, so I just give them a normal link, and then I promote them to the stage so they can do their presentation, and then I demote them back to being normal attendees.
And then somebody shares the panelist link with a bunch of people, and everybody shows up as the same name.
Yes.
That is.
And just for David and my sake, since we don't play with webinar, the panelists get elevated but not co-hosts, correct?
Correct. They are. That's why I say there's three different levels of people. There's co-hosts and hosts, although you can separate them to a degree, but there's them. There's panelists, and then below that there are the attendees who are watching. And then in my meetings, the panelists can go between the backstage and the stage. And what's interesting is some of them like to watch from backstage, some of them like to watch from the stage, but I'm spotlighting the speakers so nobody else can see them.
And I guess I have one question on that, is because you can turn on authentication for panelists, which means they have to log into their Zoom account. So to me, the situation where you give someone the link and they all try to, they all log in as Frank, because Frank's always on the panel. I think if you have authentication, it would just send you to panelists, but I haven't tested it, so I'll go with what you guys say. But
well, this is related to the issue that was raised that has now been fixed. That in a Zoom event, you may be a panelist for one of the sessions, but you're going to be attendee for the others. And until the latest update, you only got one link, so you couldn't get into your panelist places where you wanted to because you only had the one link given to you.
Okay, and Josh Tube actually has a follow-up for us, guys. He says, I suppose a registered meeting puts another spin on it, as the panelists would not have registered as an attendee, but may be offered to do so.
No, if there's registration set in the webinar, the panelists don't have to register because we register in the back. What's it called? When you're setting up the webinar, you define who the panelists are and you define their email address in the portal. Thank you. So they don't have to register. It's only the attendees who will have to register in order to get in.
And those that want to automate it, there is an API to allow you to create panelists, but I haven't actually seen any of these apps so far that have realized that and added that as a feature. So you can automate it, but I don't think the people that wrote the links like Zapier have realized there's extra features available.
Sounds to me like webinar is I'm thinking about that new style of event that we read in the release notes. That webinar already is a very basic event. And now what they've done is they've just made that an option, again, I think, to encourage people to use the events platform rather than just the webinar platform.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've had very strong hints that I'm not playing ball because I'm using webinars all the time when I'm actually effectively creating an event. I don't need all the ticketing because we do our own registration and we use the API to register people automatically into the webinar. So we don't need all the ticketing, but we use a lot of the other features.
And David, the easiest way I think of it too, when it comes to the webinar, if you're taking it to the physical location, basically you're the panel that's on the stage and everybody's sitting in chairs watching you.
Right.
That's what they're trying to initially mimic webinar to be.
Right.
But please don't forget that if somebody puts their hand up, you can click push to talk, and effectively an attendee is half elevated, just to make it even more complicated, and they're allowed to then turn on and off their microphone and join in the conversation. So it's not, they're not locked away and can't be involved.
Yeah. And of course you run the risk of not knowing who you're opening the mic for, yeah, which is always the issue with working that way. And bringing someone on stage is also the risk. You don't know who will appear and what he'll look like. But going back to the backstage, John, I'm 100% with you. I love the backstage, to bring the panelists on backstage, prep them before we put them on stage, check their mics, check everything, what they look like, etc. It's like it's literally a green room that you can set everything up. It's really good. But I've just got my Zoom webinar license open over here. I don't know if it's of any interest to anyone, but the
go ahead, Robert. Josh Tube does have another question too, but yeah, go ahead and show what you want to show.
Yeah, I'm just going to share this screen. I hope I do share the right screen. This looks like it. You can actually import from a CSV file a list of panelists. So that's the other option that you have. If you have a list of panelists, you can just do that, and it's sort of semi-automated in that way. But definitely what John mentioned, that Zapier will not support in defining panelists through the API. It puts everyone in as an attendee.
Cool. Yeah, so Josh Jub is saying, I wonder what the rationale is for Zoom to include the meeting ID and password in the email invitation sent to panelists.
Well, with due respect, you would like to think that your panelists have a level of trust and understanding that you can give them a link that they'll just click on and they can join the event. And if he's worried about security, then the fact that we make them join in backstage means that if they were a Zoom bomber, they're not going to be on stage live.
I don't think that's what he's driving at. He's just saying, what's the point of also including the meeting ID and passcode? Like, why? I've already got my panelist invitation link. Why do I need to know how to join as a non-panelist?
I don't want to speak for Zoom, but I know that there are some people who won't click on a link and want to see the meeting ID just out of for whatever reason. That's the way they've always done it. But I agree with them. I don't think both pieces of information are required. And I prefer the link because at least you have the password is coded. You can't read it out directly.
Robert, did you want to share anything that you were working on?
I'm not sure I should, but I've been working a lot with Mimo Live, and the whole idea now is to try to stream an event out in the vertical format and the horizontal format at the same time from one source of meeting attendees. So that's what I've been working on. And one of the useful tools that I've found that I wanted to show and share with you, if I can do that, I'm just going to switch on a different machine. You'll see the screen just now.
David, James, you also have, is it a quick question that we do before?
Yeah, I saw his hand jump up also.
Yeah. But if you look, if you can just spotlight that to Robert with virtual cam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's James. Hold on. Sorry.
James. Okay, so this is just a 3-up with a main speaker. But one of the things that Mimo Live has is to, when you do a lot of moving, you're not a very sort of stable speaker. So it's going to follow you.
That's kind of cool. Wow.
So that's really good for, especially when we have speakers who tend to move around or drop off and do strange things. Yeah. So that's really cool.
So that's just panning within whatever I'm sending Mimo Live. It's just panning.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah.
It works really well. However, it has its limitations, because if you move off screen more and more, Dave, you'll see what will happen to the edge of you. It'll start carry on, move further, a little bit more. You can see what's happened to your rock and roll sign. It's trying to stretch it out to look for you to the.
Yeah.
So it has its limitations. It'll follow you to a certain extent, but when it gets to the edge of the frame, it'll start, as people like to say, hallucinating as to what it should be showing. Yeah, your guitar is very wide. We can't hear you, David.
But Robert, I also just noticed too that when Frank had his camera off, it kept the last frame.
It keeps the last frame, correct. Well, Jason, I don't think Jason's here, is he?
Jason's not. Yeah, Jason left. So
yeah, so that's the last frame that I caught from Jason because I was just setting it up. So this is really cool. This is the reason I'm showing this is because when you go into this vertical format, you have such a much narrower space to work in. So any movements need to be captured properly, and that really works well. So that was the little thing that I wanted. It won't catch you just nodding your head, but if you move, Frank, it'll. Or maybe I didn't switch it on for you. Sorry, let me just switch it on.
oh, okay, so that's interesting that it's configurable in that way. So if you know that one of the people is a David.
Yeah. You're on now, Frank. So it'll try and follow you within the frame of your camera, of course. Oh, now it's sketching you.
Yeah.
It's a little, I will say that it's a little too much movement. Like every time I move a little bit, it's following me, when it doesn't need to follow me when I do that, you know? I mean, I get what it's doing, trying to keep me in the center, but
Yeah, it always wants to, yeah, it knows, again, just the algorithm that it has built in, it knows that, you know. Yeah,
Where
I
it
know.
goes wrong is with Mike. You see what happens with Mike? Because,
Again, my border, it makes it go nuts.
yeah. Yep.
I used to
So-
use some auto tracking cameras with software where you could adjust the tolerance before it would start to respond, so you could make it a little less responsive, so it didn't micro change every time someone moved even a fraction.
Yeah, that's a bit like on audio, you've got the triggers that you can manage when it comes in, how much it changes, and how quick it changes. But yeah, so this is what I've been playing with, and as you can see, this is more real time because this is going in through just an NDI feed.
Does it do headroom, like up and down, like?
No, just sideways.
Seems like another area for improvement, but still pretty cool.
Definitely.
but that's not a Zoom thing. That's a Mimo Live thing, right?
It's a Memo Live thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the coolest-
I've been playing with the stop and start video too. So if I do, right?
Wait, so you turned off your video, but it didn't go blank?
correct. Yeah, that's the comment that I made when Robert was going back there, is that it took the
Sorry.
last
Yeah, I
frame.
missed that. That's interesting.
But
So-
even on ZoomISO, if you use ZoomISO from Liminal, it'll catch the last frame if the video goes off. So it'll keep the last frame. You can set it to switch to something else, but that's what the default setting is.
Interesting. Very nice. Mike, I just passed you host. Oh, but now I can't clear the stage. Why is that? That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I see.
Oh, wait, no, but why can't I clear the stage? That's interesting.
Clear the stage.
Oh, I did clear the stage. Did you do that or did I do that?
I'm in. Well, as soon as you gave it to me, I'm in. Not gallery mode. I'm in.
No, it's all
participant
right.
mode.
It's okay. All right. Yes, I'm passing it to you, Mike. I have to family obligations, but I know that James has a question, and we don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
So I'll catch that guy
Yeah.
on the replay.
And again, Robert, are you finished with the demo, or are you continuing?
Oh, that's all I wanted to share today. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, James, your question for the group.
So my question is, and sorry I wasn't here earlier, but obligations like work, something like that. Did you guys test the new kind of waiting room feature, like if host leaves and puts everyone into the waiting room? You know the feature I'm talking about. And
Yeah, we didn't
why
test
would
it.
why would you use that?
It's under security on the meeting, James. And the idea is if something drastic happens during the meeting and you just want to shut off everything, audio and video, and just start rebuilding and throwing out whoever was being indecent or whatever, you can do that. That's the idea behind it.
Well, that's the security turn off everyone's participation thing, whatever that one is. I'm talking about the feature where it throws everyone to, if the host leaves, it throws everyone into a meeting room. And why
Sorry.
is that different than just, if the host leaves, you can just close the meeting?
I think there's lots of meetings where you don't want them to be unmoderated for a variety of reasons. And so if the host internet drops out, you all go to the waiting room and wait. And there's lots of, places or times where that might be important for some organizations.
Yeah, if you haven't got a co-host, then you've got no control. Zoom's going to choose who it's going to make the host of that meeting. And if they're all invitees, you might not want that.
Yeah. The other thing is I've seen it used. I haven't used it personally, but I've seen it used where you define 3 or 4 people as alternative hosts. And one is a speaker. He leaves. Everyone goes to the waiting room. The next speaker comes in, who is also an alternative host, and he can bring everyone back in. So it's used I'd imagine in Frank and James, your sort of environments where you've got a teacher or someone who's coming into a room where people are situated, and once he leaves, you just want peace and quiet. You don't want them to lose control or someone to take over the meeting with something.
You might be having a conversation or let's say a meeting about something that's very politically fraught with angst, or maybe, imagine if you were doing something that was testing and the teacher lost connection, everyone shared the answers while the teacher was gone, or I don't know. There's probably lots of scenarios where you don't want an unmoderated meeting to take place when the host isn't there. Like I'd have to think about it, but there's probably reasons why some organizations would want that.
But you could also have it if the host isn't there, it closes the meeting.
Yeah, but maybe your internet just dropped out and you don't want the meeting to end. Your internet might recover and you'll be back in like 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and you just want everyone to chill out in the waiting room until your internet recovers.
Internet, PC, whatever. Yeah.
You're right, Frank, because now I've just remembered we do not a lot, but some interpretation for court cases on Zoom. And if for any reason the judge drops out, you don't want the judge to miss out on anything that happens during his absence. So that would be another use case.
Good one, Robert. James, does that make sense?
Yeah, there's that other thing where you're saying like you have two different people though. I'm just if you guys tested this, I'm just like I'm trying to figure out like you have one teacher and you have another teacher and you want everyone to go into the waiting room while they change. I don't know, it just seems like an awkward switch.
Well,
And-
it's
and
sort
did
of,
you-
yeah, to me, it would be sort of an easier way to a point if you wanted to sort of turn a meeting into a webinar too, where you're using in the physical world, you'd be using the same room, but you'd have different hosts come up every 20 minutes and you'd have like a 10-minute break. Well, that would be easier in that regards to keep everybody in the meeting, but throw everybody, the host is now left. And now you go like in Robert's scenario where you have the alternate host being the next speaker. Then when that next speaker is ready to start, then the meeting starts again.
Zoom doesn't code stuff for no reason. I'm sure they had enough requests that they felt it was worth coding it. Yeah.
When we do an interpretation for big training, because in Europe, a lot of the organizations have offices in different countries and the different languages spoken, and they do training for them all at the same time. This is exactly what they do. They have this schedule set up, and there is no host of the whole meeting. You just get one trainer coming in, he leaves, and the next one comes in, he leaves. And if he finishes early, he doesn't want to sit around, he just leaves.
But at that point, Robert, correct, they go back to the waiting room.
Correct.
And it's the same meeting. They don't have to go to the next meeting link.
No, they just come back from the waiting room when the next trainer comes in or the coach comes in.
So the easiest way, James, to think about this too is that you're having the same group of people all the time doing something all day long, but yet you're having different hosts come in and go out and come in, go out. Now this takes away having an administrator that is now host that now has to make that person co-host every time. You could actually have them instead as alternate hosts where they can just, when that host is done with the meeting and they know their sort of time slot that they have, the next host will just come in after, right? And take it up at that next time.
Having said that, I'm not sure that this is the use case for Zoom. This is just one of the use cases that I've seen.
It works, it works.
Go ahead, James.
I just first thought it just seemed really clumsy, but as you explained it, I guess I could see where I maybe I'm just too hands-on, like I want to control everything. And so this is kind of an uncontrolled, like, okay, I'm done with my section. I will leave. You guys will be thrown in the waiting room. It'll be like, as you said, go out to the hall, have your coffee. It's your intermission. And when the new host comes in, you'll be brought back in. I just thought it seemed clumsy to me, but I guess now
Now again, too, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you could actually get really cute in the waiting room because you could always have content playing in the waiting room in that little box, right? So if there is not live content, but it could be pre-canned content of sorts. So it's sort of an interesting way of doing an event per se, where you could actually have 4 different Zoom meetings set up and you just have hosts pop in and out of meetings and they are just alternate hosts. So to a point, it, as we were talking about the Zoom events platform, this is sort of taking that without the lobby portion of it. Again, you'll have, because I know that there's some events that I've been going to lately, more specifically in the streaming world, that will throw me out all the time. And I have to go back in within a half an hour again to a new meeting link because it's a new Zoom webinar where it could have easily, because it's the same host, but he decided that each individual webinar is going to be a totally different link. in theory, he could have actually done this in a totally different setup by using, again, depends on your client. If it's a one person talking, I would say alternate host. But again, if you get into a panel, then of course you would have to get into like webinar. Did I say that right? I think so.
So when in the other situation, right, where you'd say like, how do you have it so the meeting doesn't end? Is that, so like if I'm in the meeting and I'm the host and I want to end it, or I want to leave, it'll say like past host to someone else, or to close the meeting. Does having that setting then, as you say, like I could leave, it throws everyone in the waiting room and it just keeps that meeting room open until another alternate host comes in? How long will that meeting just stay open until there's like when there's no host? Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know how to answer that question. Because I know where you're getting to, because usually if there's no activity in a meeting for 30 minutes, it'll just switch itself off. So does that happen is the question. I really don't know. I wouldn't have thought so, but I don't know.
Is the feature released yet, or is it announced?
I mean, I thought the feature started a week ago.
Okay, I haven't gone and looked at it, so I'd have to go. I would like to go into the admin section and see if there's any other fine tuning you can do to that particular feature.
I don't remember seeing.
It might just be on off, and that might be all there is to it. I don't know.
But I don't have full admin, so I don't see necessarily everything. So I don't know if there's anything else.
Okay. Interesting. So,
I do have full admin, but I'm
Oh,
not sure.
okay.
I'm not sure where to look for it because I haven't really spent a lot of time with that. So it'll obviously be under account management, account settings, but after that, not so sure where to look. Do you know what it's called? Is it called just waiting room or? Anyways, lots of dead air while I'm reading
yeah.
the admin panel here.
Then everybody else is actually, I think you've intrigued everybody, Frank. I think everybody's looking at their accounts right now.
I just don't know what it's called exactly. I remember seeing it in a release email, but I didn't actually rush out and check it out, so I don't.
I mean, the only thing I see is in your settings, and you go to the waiting room options.
Okay,
There's
so just your
now
personal settings.
Right.
Okay.
There's
Personal
the if host and co-hosts are not present.
Meeting. Edit options.
And then there's two options. One is move participants to the waiting room if the host dropped unexpectedly, and the other one is move participants to the waiting room if the host leaves during the meeting.
Yeah, I found it. I can
In some
screenshot that if anybody is curious to see it.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
So, just I'll back up a little bit. I'm in my personal settings, meeting, security. And then it's waiting room options. I may have passed it. Waiting room options.
I think you passed it.
Yeah.
It's right at the top.
Right here. Edit. Edit options. Then it's at the bottom. If host and co-hosts are not present, move participant to the waiting room if the host is dropped unexpectedly, or move participants to the waiting room if the host leaves during the meeting. Interesting.
And my question would be, if I was David, what's the difference?
If the host drops unexpectedly, sounds like an internet outage. If this one means that the host left the meeting with the button, like actually. clicked.
Okay. So
I'm guessing.
unintentional versus intentional.
Probably. That's what it looks like to me on first blush.
It's an RUD in SpaceX words.
And since we're here, customize waiting room.
But just looking at that, Frank, you've just by making me look at that. There's where it says "new" to the right-hand side there.
Oh,
It
sure.
says sort order of people in the waiting room in the participants panel by join order or alphabetical. I hadn't seen that before. That's new.
That
That's
was
interesting.
Yeah, that is new. Like, I think that's new. That was true for meetings, but I didn't know it was true for waiting rooms.
Hmm.
Interesting. So good eagle eyes you've got there.
Did you notice that the move participants to waiting room if host is dropped unexpectedly disables the allow participants to join before host?
Say it again. Sorry, that was too fast for me.
Sorry. If you enable move participants to waiting room if the host is dropped, if you enable that feature, then that means that people can't join before the host, because obviously the host not there would mean they would be put back into the waiting room. So you block that other feature. So you cannot have a room where they can join the meeting before the host is available, because you said the host will put them back into the waiting room if they're not available.
True. Many things in Zoom are contradictions or have ripple effects, if you want to put it that way. If you turn some features on, it blocks other features.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially the part Robert also pointed out that I hadn't seen this before. This has a little V, which means they have to be on a certain version or higher. What's the value in having people in the waiting room in a specific order? Maybe you're keeping people in the waiting room and letting them in one at a time, so it's more democratic to say you were here in the waiting room first, so you get into the meeting first. Parent-teacher interviews. 10 parents are waiting in the waiting room. I don't want them to listen to everything I'm going to say about little Johnny, so I let little Johnny's parents in, and then whoever's next in join order gets the next slot because they showed up first. Maybe, or maybe I've got the file folders open for the students alphabetically, and I want to do, I don't know, Alfina. I don't know, an A name first. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That would be a good use case.
Zoom has so many settings. Sometimes it gets away from you, right? Like you're like, oh, geez, there's all these new things.
Yeah.
So the waiting rooms options. I don't know if we've talked
so
about this recently.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about before, when you could benefit from when one host leaves, this is where they get sent back to, and this is where I was saying you could actually have some content in there.
Sure. This is sort of a new concept, I think, for Zoom, desktop or mobile.
It gives you a little more formatting so you can actually see what it actually will look like for.
But does this get you vertical video in any, like, does this help you get more of a vertical video thing, which Robert's thinking about?
There you go. That's what it does with the video.
Is this going to be happening in more places in Zoom for vertical versus horizontal? Like, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. I think I saw this somewhere else. I'm not sure where, but I think I saw this somewhere else in Zoom as well. I know I was playing around in the waiting room area.
I forgot
to make sure that we customized our corporate logo into the bottom part instead of it being Zoom in there, where it gives that as default.
That's actually something that I've I've stopped using this customization of the waiting room because of this, specifically what you said, Frank, because you forget that you've done it. You have two back-to-back meetings, and suddenly you get the next guys seeing something that was prepared for the previous
Sure.
guys. Yeah. And unless you've got something that's very, very sort of neutral or basic, sometimes we'd get films in there with, if you're going to use the interpretation to select, this is how you select it.
Sure.
But if you you can get yourself into trouble by leaving the wrong name or the wrong logo in there.
Robert, what I would suggest is, considering you are a video production company, is to say, basically this is the perfect time for you to put your advertisement there as a splash. That this
But
service,
imagine
this
how
service-
powerful it could be if Zoom would say video and meeting ID, and you could have like a little list here of your
Oh.
videos and meeting
They-
IDs next
so
to them,
they
so that you could
do.
they do.
Oh,
They do. It's called Zoom Sessions.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it just in a regular meeting, like if in Robert's use case, if he could have like a list of 5 videos, and then say this video is for these 3 meeting IDs, and this video is for this one meeting ID, that would be pretty useful.
I would like to be
And
able
they
to
could call
do
it
that.
Zoom Sessions Lite. That would be nice if it came out.
But to your point, Frank, I would like to have one in English, one in Spanish, one
Yeah,
in French, one
sure.
in German. Yeah, that would
Sure.
be super cool.
yeah.
I haven't asked this question in a while, or thought about it in a while, but since I'm sitting here, there was some complaints that the waiting room videos, do they start with sound on, or no, they start muted, and the user has to be savvy enough to unmute them, and people wanted them to autoplay. Has that ever been rectified or changed in any way?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
My guys, nothing.
I don't know.
I know that people were saying, I made this nice video and nobody heard the sound because they didn't, they're Zoom newbies and they didn't think to unmute the video, and they would like it just to
Yeah,
start.
the
with
player
volume.
is what the player the player is what the player looked like, Frank. So of course there was the mute button, as long as you're semi.
But there's no state that you can control in the planning process where you say the state will be muted or unmuted when people
Right.
enter the room. I know that was a complaint from some quarters.
Yeah, I believe that, but I could also
go.
see where that would be. I understand the reasoning for putting it muted versus unmuted.
It's usually better to be muted. Yeah, I agree. But
because I could see a lot more complaints of it being unmuted than muted.
yeah, maybe in the waiting room there could be better, some sort of UI enhancements that show people like explicitly, hey, there's sound here if you want to hear it on mute or something. I guess if you're a video editor, you could put that as a lower third or something, but average people aren't going to have those skills.
Or again, this would be a perfect video for the video production companies similar to what Robert is. Again, test, if it's a meeting, have a video up there that's in potentially multiple languages that says, basically you prepare them while they're sitting in the waiting room, and hopefully they actually come, not 30 seconds before the meeting starts, but actually have a video in there that actually says, test your microphone, make sure your video is on, go through a lot of the things that you were talking about, Frank, how, where the host usually would do that when they come in, do it again, but maybe also put it there as well as a video, as a nice video.
Or
corporate shot.
upload, if Zoom made their waiting room so that the meeting host could upload 3 versions of the same video with different audio tracks, and in the waiting room it said there are 3 versions of this available in Spanish, Italian, and Polish. Select here for your language. That would be really awesome.
If you,
Yeah,
if we
or
really want to be
or at
data-driven-
minimum, at least do like the closed captioning, which they're doing now.
Yeah, if we really want to let go of fantasy, then we'd say use the language that the user registered for the event.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. Even that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
I-
or based on the client that's connecting.
I know. I was working on one of the platforms I work on last week. I don't remember which one, and it detects the browser language and then changes things accordingly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, again, a lot of websites will do that as well by default.
I think WebEx has really done a good job on this side, because when you get into the waiting room, it actually asks you to do not only test your mic and camera, but it informs you interpretation is available. Choose the language you want to listen to the event in. And so you don't have to give any instructions, because people do that before they go in. So
Impressive. That's very impressive.
that's a nice, really nice touch.
Or being able to, in Zoom's case, being able to reconfigure the waiting room shall we call it a template, heaven forbid, make our own customized waiting room templates that are X size by X size.
I remembered where I was that does that. It's for the closed captions, and it auto detects your browser language, and then it gives you those as the prominent captions, and it's in Kaltura, in the new Kaltura player.
Nice, nice. Good. I know this isn't a Zoom feature, but one of my discoveries of this week has been that using WebEx, you actually get, the host can define 4 NDI feeds out of the WebEx meeting, which can be used for production, which is really cool when you think about it. You don't have to use ZoomISO, you don't have to do anything, just in the client itself. And one of those outputs can be active speaker. So for production purposes, that's getting really cool. And of course, WebEx is in 1080p, just like Zoom is. So there are a lot of good things happening there as well.
Okay, so we actually have a question from Curtis on YouTube, is asking us, I've been noticing an issue with ZoomISO or ZoomOSC losing the names saved in group 1. Robert, I'm going to have you help me with this one. Using BitFocus Companion, I don't know if you're using that or not. ZoomOSC version debug log appears at the same time in Companion ZoomOSC log. He's asking if anybody's experienced that or not before.
I don't know that much detail of OSC. I can't tell you. But it sort of implies that the users are predefined, or is this losing them during an event?
You've asked, and I will see if Curtis replies. Give me just a few seconds. So again, with the delay, and we'll see if Curtis actually can give you a follow-up on that, Robert. But yeah, it's quite interesting. So, and it's only he's saying it's recently. So that's in itself is interesting, that it's not something that's been there since the beginning. It's only happening to him recently. It could be, I'll say it this way, it could be Companion. Would be my first thought, is depending on what version of Companion you're running and which plugin of Companion you're running. That would be my first check, is to make sure that if you are at the latest version of ZoomOSC, that you're also running potentially the latest version of Companion and the latest ZoomOSC plugin version as well, because all of them will match up properly. That would be my initial thought. Robert, I don't know if you're running an older version, newer version of Companion?
Well, no, I actually run an older version, because the trouble with Companion is that when you upgrade to the next level, all the new features come in and it knocks off all the well, not all, but some of the definitions of your buttons that you've defined. So it takes a bit of fidgeting. So I tend to stay on a version for as long as I can.
Yes, and you've done that to us on Zoom too, where we've been testing things. That's true.
I know.
You don't want things to break. We understand that from the production role. It works. It doesn't throw up. It's a good thing. All is good. So just waiting to see if Curtis has any follow-up for us. But yeah, continue.
And Curtis, if you could just type in whether this is happening in a webinar or in a meeting.
Yeah, good question. Good question with ZoomOSC. So that would definitely be my thought, is that if you've updated one or the other, meaning that you might have updated a ZoomOSC, it might have changed something that might not have been in the older Companion plugin, right? So that would be So if something's been if you've upgraded one and not upgraded the other, I would make sure to upgrade both, or go back and make sure that, if you did have an older version, or if you do have an older version of ZoomOSC, I would also go with older version of Companion. That would be my other suggestion, without knowing a little more details, is to make sure that all the versions match. Then if all the versions match, so you're running the latest and greatest of everything, minus the beta of Companion. I would not trust beta. Beta would probably break things. But if you're running the latest stable of Companion and you're running the latest version of ZoomOSC, in theory, everything should be working properly. And again, Robert, you haven't run into this with the older version of. Now, are you running the newer version of ZoomOSC versus an older one, or no?
I'm running an older version of ZoomISO that supports OSC, so that's completely different.
Right. Okay. So your old version though, correct?
Old version, yeah.
Right.
And it's, like I said, it's only out of pure laziness not to have to go in and just redefine or check if all the definitions of all of the buttons are still the same. Because as new functionality comes in, things change in the way certain functions operate.
Right. Okay. No update from Curtis as of yet, but I'll keep looking, Curtis. So if you would definitely want to let us know, we'll throw that up there. John, those things have been good. I'm just waiting for Curtis here. So.
Yeah. Should I try and show something?
Sure.
You've got time, but you want to show something?
Sure, why not? Yeah. As we're waiting for Curtis, by all means, let's test things out on the test kitchen.
I'm going to try and get 2 other clients to join us.
Okay.
So that's
join our current meeting?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Mac should have joined the meeting.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay. I'm now going to try and get an app to join the meeting. So let me just copy the links. Copy the invite. Link. Paste it in there. Join. Doesn't look like it's going to join.
Oh, yeah. John, FYI, audio is
on echo there.
Okay, yeah, I'll go into gallery mode while you're showing everything there. Then we'll see all the different Johns, including Robert still doing his virtual cam on. So is it been good, Robert?
Is it being good?
Live, no crashes, nothing broken?
I haven't used it live yet because I've just started using and then learning how to use Mimo Live. But I know people who are using it live. Like I mentioned before, that one of the reasons that I wanted to look at it was the ability to see. The beauty about Mimo Live is once you've joined a Zoom meeting, Mimo Live uses things called documents, and you can open 2 documents where you define what's meant to be happening. And out of those 2 documents, you can stream in vertical and stream in horizontal. And my idea was to figure out a way how, when I'm cutting a show, if I'm cutting from you to John to someone else or putting a 3 up, how to do that with one button on both documents, so the vertical changes and the horizontal changes. Yeah?
Okay.
And it's not as if you can just make a vertical out of a horizontal. No, you've got to have them pre-formatted separately and then have something that is changing them both at the same time. So that is my goal. And I know the Mimo Live has plugins for Stream Decks. So looking at doing that way, even if it means having to
And
press two adjacent buttons initially to make things happen.
but you're already a companion user, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would double check with companion as well. There should be a Mimo Live integration of some sort there for you.
I'm going to start off with the straight plugin, the easy things, to get the easy things done first. Otherwise, there are too many variables to manage at the same time.
Right. I just know that even in my own experience, when it comes to the Stream Deck software and companion, they just don't like each other. I just have way too many problems with both of them running simultaneously.
I didn't think you could even do that, to tell you the truth.
There is a workaround as far as I understand. But basically you have to tell Stream Deck that companion is sort of a plugin to Stream. So it's Stream Deck itself runs as the master software, and companion becomes then a client to the Stream Deck software. So there is potential that they don't like talking to each other. And again, it also means that Big Focus also has to keep up to date their Stream Deck to companion interface plugin, as Stream Deck wants to call them. How are we doing there, John?
Yeah, I
We
can't
see
get
two-
the web
we see
client
two of
to
you.
join. Yeah, but I want a web client to join as well, and it won't join.
Oh, okay. You wanted to see the difference, John?
No, I've got a little app running in it.
Ah, okay. All right. And Curtis, we haven't got a reply from Curtis, so we'll continue on. But yeah, so good. So Mimo Live has been stable for you, so that's good. Definitely, and you've tried it in multiple test Zoom meetings, I would assume, including ours.
Including ours, I've been running it in the background all the time, so I'm just looking at the output and seeing how it behaves. So it's in that context, it's very stable. One of the what have I noticed? Unfortunately, the virtual camera has stopped working in Mimo Live on a certain version of the Mac OS, because
Right.
Mimo Live is only Mac. There are workarounds for that, but I haven't tried them. I'm just waiting for a fix to come out.
Right. Okay. So so just for everybody on YouTube, you're not running a beta, correct? You're running a stable release of
A
the
stable
software.
release, correct. There is a beta with the fix, but I am not using that at the moment.
Alrighty. That's cool. I did notice, so I'll throw this out there while John is still working. I did notice that OBS did release a new version this week. Let me just see if I got the latest information on that. Yeah, now we're officially now, as of 3 days ago, version 30.1. So there's a number of different things that did get done there. Too numerous to talk about right now, but one of them that I'm definitely looking into myself is a newer technology called WIP. And it's a WIP output. It is a newer type of RTMP replacement that is coming out. And the content delivery network that you're working with has to be able to ingest WIP. So it's not fully available out there, but my understanding is right now WIP is being accepted on Twitch. And there is a specialized version of OBS that has been made that has the Twitch, yeah, they call it Twitch enhanced broadcasting, and it's a beta. And that's what I'm talking about there. But when it comes to the standard WIP technology, again, it is a protocol, just like, you know, I don't know what it specifically stands for offhand. I'm usually pretty good on the acronyms, but I don't know what this new one is. But I know it definitely uses WebRTC. So we're definitely getting, the legacy is getting into sub millisecond, similar to, what Zoom uses in the background, their own version of WebRTC to do what we need to do. So the whip technology, and again, they've also, it looks like they've actually added AV1 codec capabilities to that. So that's really cool. That seems to be where a lot of things are also going to, is to the AV1 codec versus the 8.264 or H.265 that are currently out there. Again, the AV1 does a lot better compression on the, especially if you start doing 4K. That's definitely where you're going to definitely see the benefits to using AV1 over especially H.264 or even H.265. You'll definitely need a lot less bandwidth for that. And I see John disappeared on his Mac Studio. Is John still with us, Robert? I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah, he's still here.
Yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
there you are,
I
John.
can't get the client to join, so I'll try and do it another time.
Alrighty, that's
I
fine.
don't know why. I don't know why the web client won't join. So I'll go back to developers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So again, so OBS has added some of the new functionality, and I definitely check that out off of the OBS project's website. As far as vMix is concerned, I have not heard about any new features myself, but let me just take a quick look here. We'll see if there's anything new and exciting there before we wrap up. And again, I never did hear back from Curtis, unfortunately. So
Just on OBS, Mike,
go ahead, Robert.
I came across this week a plugin on OBS that will actually allow you to do those vertical and horizontal formats, where you can define the layouts individually.
Right.
But I haven't tried it yet. I'm just saying that I've come across it. I've seen it in my research, and so that's something else I will be looking at. But
right.
Yeah.
Again, so a lot of the how can I say it? Basically what you're trying to do, Robert, which is basically 9:16, is what the vertical format is classified as, versus our 16:9, which is normal, as I call it, more normal TV versus mobile. So the 9:16 format, vMix I think does have that as well. But you would again need to also do a separate, it would be in vMix equivalent to where Mimo is basically, as you said, it's document based, where it's basically to a point using a separate encoder would be my thought in Mimo Live. Same thing in vMix as well, is that it would literally give you 9:16, but you again have to tweak your second encoder within vMix to actually do the 9:16 version of the 16:9. So whatever your default, it's not two separate, where from my understanding, what you told me, that Mimo Live is sort of two separate. vMix is still one, but it will take your raw of your main. So again, you would, if you really want to, it's the one you choose over the other, right? So whatever your main switching will be, same thing with OBS, is if you're going to go 9:16 with everything, and then you want to make a 16:9 of that, then you'd have to put black bars, right? So if you're going the other way, you have your 16:9 by default, and then you could actually crop out the 9:16 in the middle, right? Which you've seen a lot in like YouTube Shorts or these other type of videos where you could tell that it was done in 16:9 because all of a sudden the head is like over here, and all of a sudden it's all cut off, right?
And that's the big challenge, because what we're trying to achieve, or what I'm trying to achieve, is to have those two formats recorded during an event, so that we can push the verticals through the app that we use for shorts, generate the shorts automatically in a very short period of time. Otherwise, there's a lot of editing work to be done.
Yeah, I'm trying to crack the same problem, and I'm now just in my OBS version. I've got OBS and a vMix version for different uses. My OBS version I've given up now, and I'm creating a whole duplicate of scenes, one vertical and one horizontal, because putting the two together I found too hard. And just to make life hard for me, my confession is this month I've been learning how to program in Node.js so that I can write my own interfaces and I won't have to have central control over there, OBS over there, Stream Deck over there, and all these different apps all trying to talk to, because they've all got functions that one hasn't got.
Right.
So I'm
John
now
is
bravely learning Node.js so I can put my own system together.
so John is throwing away the band-aids and he's making one big unit instead of having the multiple band-aids put together so that he actually gets the functions that you want.
Well, it was explained to me by one of my customers that I don't need central heating because I have all these computers I have running. And it is quite true that you can watch the temperature in the room go up during the day if I'm doing a big session.
I believe it. I believe it.
But yes, I'm learning Node. But the interesting about Node.js is that it's effectively it can talk to all these different apps, and it's when you actually start digging into the dark world of APIs, it's quite frightening. Thanks, Frank. Frank is going to sleep.
You, Frank. Take
Yeah,
care.
it's amazing how many pieces of software and programs you can get. I mean, in theory, I could create a program that you could ask you some questions. It could almost build an entire event system on Zoom because there's enough APIs to set up a lot of the functions. There's enough API control that it could talk to whatever, because most of them work now. So whichever landing page application you have, link your landing page application up to your database. That could all be controlled by APIs. Sending out all your invites for people to join the event could all be done by APIs. All the reporting afterwards can be put to Google spreadsheets and then be processed by APIs. Am I just programming myself out of a job? You could take your Stream Deck controls and pre-program the buttons on APIs.
And heaven forbid actually start using triggers in Companion too. Yeah.
You could, you can, because you can get to the code. So you would just get the thing to build. Okay, you can't do it by APIs, but what you could do is you could build the config file and then you could load it in and have your devices, your Stream Deck devices, all pre-programmed with the names of the people they want to be and all the special links and all the other stuff. It's all possible.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, AI is not clever enough that you can ask AI to do it for you. But
Well,
amazing the world will go.
Ask it if it knows how to do Node.js code and let it answer that question.
It does, but unfortunately, it's not up to date enough to get some of the stuff that you need to put it all together. But yeah, it's frightening.
If you teach it, it will help you.
That's indeed where I'm going. That's why, because then you don't have a set of questions, as you say, just have an AI.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the ultimate aim is to get bought out by Zoom. Isn't that what we all live for? The Zoom come along and buy us out because we're doing too well without, what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Not my goal, anyway.
No, definitely not mine either. But yeah, we know what you're talking about, John. We know who you might be talking about too.
Yeah. It's frightening how, as we've demonstrated tonight, the world now is getting so complicated. It's what you know is possible that is the challenge now for all those people that are watching us on the internet. If you don't know these features are available, you've never conceived of the situation when you can use them and put them together, and you've never conceived of that situation when a customer can't get their camera to work, and you never knew there was remote camera control.
Yeah. Oh, Curtis has actually came back to us. Okay, so we do have an answer, Robert. Hold on.
Yep, go for
All right. He said his answer was during using the selected participants and add to group one. Less than a minute later, it clears. I don't know the software, so I'm going to go over to you on that one.
That sounds like a companion error, companion problem. There's no reason why Zoom would. Oh, I suppose. Well, assuming OSC, they're using companions using OSC, so OSC is not going to get the wrong names. So I can't see there being a problem with Zoom giving the wrong names and losing them, and I can't see a problem with OSC getting the wrong names and losing them. So it must be companion that's losing the names.
There used to be a problem. That was a long time ago when the list wouldn't refresh, and you had to go read them in again and refresh it. But I don't think there must be something else going wrong here. I don't know how to explain it. I've never seen this happening.
Yeah,
So
and,
I really don't know
Robert,
how
you
to
asked the question about if this was, and he's saying he uses all the newest versions, and this is happening to him in meetings.
Okay, so I don't understand why it's happening in meetings. It shouldn't be happening.
Okay, yeah, so if he is using all the latest versions, that takes my theory out the door about ZoomOSC not understanding the APIs that it's getting. So that's A. B, if it's the latest version of Companion, one more, he says, may have to go back to an old reliable like Robert has been doing. There you go. See, Robert, you're influencing well. Which is basically going step backwards, Rev. Would not be a bad idea. Curtis, go ahead, Robert.
I would do, by all means, go one step backward just to get to a version that is not so much the version is stable, but all of your definitions of your buttons and your actions are the same as the version that you originally programmed them in. But the other thing to do is to send an email to Liminal. They are really good in assisting and responding to these inquiries, and they will tell you straight away, certain things have changed, you need to update this and that, or whatever it is that needs to be changed. So you have two options. One, go back to the previous version that was stable, and secondly, to get in touch with Liminal and ask them what's going on.
Yeah, we know their team is using these tools, so they will, if there's a problem, they'll be aware of it, or if they have a combination of products that do work, they'll be aware of that as well.
Yeah, because we do know for a fact that even at Zoomtopia, they were using Stream Decks. Yeah, he says, thanks, we'll test some more. You're welcome, Curtis. Yeah, so basically we know that the Zoom events team definitely uses if not ZoomISO, they're using ZoomOSC for sure. And B, we know for a fact that they're integrating that with Companion. We know that for a fact as well, just because of some photos that we saw from behind the scenes at Zoomtopia. Okay, guys, anything before we wrap up? Anything new and exciting this week going to happen, Robert?
I am setting myself up to support office hours during NAB. So that's the big event that's coming up in Las Vegas next month in 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th of April. And there's some really, really clever plans there. If you watch the second hour of office hours today on YouTube, Alex talked a lot about those plans, and there's going to be some really clever stuff being done. And he's a very he can tell where to look to see the trends that will turn into our business at a later stage. So it would be a good idea just to listen to that or watch that session of today, the second hour of today. And I'll be working on that. I'll be supporting them. And because unfortunately it's in Pacific time, so between Europe and the Pacific time, there's a big stretch of nothing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Gonna have to figure out what to do with sleep during that time.
Absolutely.
Only for a couple of days, I think we'll survive.
Interesting. And we have on YouTube, we actually have closed captioning, and I swear, I think that must be Polish again. Robert, did you turn on closed captioning again?
No, I did not.
Oh, interesting. That's fine. But it's definitely in a different language. It's not English. Okay. And hello, Roland. Welcome. And as they would say, better late than never. But a participant has set the caption language to English.
I changed mine to English so that
Okay.
you wouldn't have an issue. If
Yep.
I'm the source of that problem, I don't know.
Let me see.
I don't know. It could be mine because mine was already English before you helped.
All right. And Roland, we're actually almost finishing. Do you have any questions for us before we disappear? By all means, let us know because we're almost done here. I'll wait for Roland to reply on that. Yeah, so that's good. John, what are you going to be up to this week? Meetings?
Well, I had 2 big medical conferences, and how can I put this? After the fear of all these doctors going back together again and then all going off sick and causing great trouble for the NHS, we are now brave enough that we want to do face-to-face. And almost all the groups that we've talking to, the response is 60-40. 60% will do face-to-face and 40% still want to stay online. So we will have to go hybrid for all the meetings.
Okay, yeah, Roland. Okay, yeah, we were hearing some of your audio issues, Roland. Yeah, and Roland does have a question for us. He says, can you clarify the bug with live performance audio?
I don't think it's a bug. I think it's the logic has got silly and changed. I think it's a bug in the way they're implementing things.
So is this going back to last week when we were talking about the enforcing the performance audio, or is this something different?
I'm guessing it is. I mean, the whole settings have changed for all the live performance audio, and the way it works, you have to go into the settings and make the changes. And even when you make the changes, and this caught me out this week, even when you make the changes, say live performance audio, when you go live on your meeting, you've still got to go up and find that little button and turn it on again. So you've got like to double tell it that it's live performance audio.
So even though it's enforced,
you still have to
turn it on.
Yeah.
Even though that enforcement was supposed to eliminate that, correct?
Well, I'm madly assume that if the settings you set are for live audio and live performance, and you click on that button, I naively assume that was going to happen, but it doesn't.
Interesting. So I'm wondering if maybe
it's a feature at the moment, as it's a known mistake.
Oh, and this is with the latest client.
Yeah. So okay. if you go whichever way you go. So if you do your hat for your audio, and you go into audio settings, maybe I should be sharing my screen to do this.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I don't think I've got. Can you do it? Because I haven't got show your Zoom in my options. So if I share my screen, you won't see my Zoom, I don't think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 1 second. All right. Share screen. And, oh, yes, we want to go into the client, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 1 sec. Let me just get on my Zoom client here. There we go. So that the share will see it. Where are you, share? You will share that screen. Okay, it's actually not coming up as a window in there. Interesting. I might not have it either. Let me see if I can get it in advance. Well, advanced, I can get it probably as a portion, but
might be hidden.
Going to try that again. I might be confusing it because I had a browser over top of that I'm monitoring with. Let me try again. Yeah, I could do, let me see here.
Let me just check if I have that switched on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why I don't have that option. Oh, okay.
No, it's not visible. It's not switched on.
Which, what is that? Is that a meeting limitation? Or is that a...
No, you have to enable people to see your Zoom windows when you're sharing.
Okay.
Okay, I found it. I found the right option. So let me see if I can do it now.
Go ahead, John.
So if I go share screen, oh, share screen's now hiding. Oh, if I just share my entire screen, I'll see what we see. Okay, so so can you see my settings on top of everything else?
Yep. Got it.
Okay, good. All right, so when you go into audio here, you've got the speaker and the microphone, the normal audio stuff we're used to, and then it's below where the world has changed completely. So this audio profile thing here is where it gets funny. So the first few options are the ones you'd expect for normal. Personalized audio isolation I never use because I don't use a headset to that degree. But what you really want to do is you want to click this original sound for your musicians here. And you get these extra options for high fidelity music, which I do, but I don't know why. Echo cancellation is always useful. And you've got the ability to go stereo. So I can enable all of those. And then I need to scroll down. No, I don't, because it's active. So that's now active. But when I'm on my audio, I still have to click, and I can't get to it because all the sharing buttons are in the way. But I still have to click this button up the top. Original sound for musicians. So even though I've enabled that in the settings in audio, at the top of my screen it still says original sound for musicians off. So you have to click on that, and now you're in original sound for musicians. So you have to do it twice to get it to work. Does that make sense?
No.
No, I know, but do I make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
You did.
That's
And,
good.
and
That's
go
good.
ahead, Robert.
I think
You
that's
make-
what people are saying is a bug, and in a way it is.
You make sense, John. I'm not sure if that's a bug, to be very honest, because when I think about the millions of people who don't use that option, if that was to default by mistake to a different option, Zoom would be having hundreds and thousands of calls and trouble ticket requests.
Well, I think you're right to a great degree, Robert, because originally you could just go up to that button, hit it, and you could set original sound on. Now you've got to go into the settings and allow original sound to go on before you're allowed to actually activate the feature. So I think you're right. It's nice that they've put it
now,
in a
John.
section of its own.
Yeah,
Sure.
now, John, he was actually talking about in the live performance audio, which is the beta down there.
Yeah, well, that says the word beta. So who's trusting that?
Right. So I don't know, Roland. Did we talk about which setting or which profile were we talking that you asked about? You specifically said live performance audio is a bug. Well, officially it is beta, so chances are there will be a bug. But if
Well,
you're
I think
talking,
it's got the same. It looks, if you see my screen, I think it's got the same functional issue that I've activated it. But if you ever look at the top of the screen, it still says live performance audio off. So, like Robert said, you still got to activate it to make it work.
okay, yeah, it makes sense to roll it now.
Take 2 ticks to get it done. I had to double click it to get it to work. But yeah, that's the issue. And as I understand it, the difference between live performance and the other one is that live performance is trying to reduce the latency to as low as possible so that you can have band members all playing at the same time. I mean, crikey, the way I play in a band, you can have a latency of a minute and no one's going to notice the music's any different.
Yeah, and if you're a musician that plays musical notes, you'll understand. When I used to be in a band, they used to make the comment about, "Is that a K chord?" For the non-musicians, there is no such thing as a K chord. Okay.
Yes, and those people that have ever seen Morecambe and Wise will know the best quote is, "I've played all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right
The right order. Yes, correct. Yeah. And the correct time. Again, I'm showing my drumming in me. Cool. Good, John.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
those options are fantastic, but if, as Robert said, if people who do not have an understanding use them wrong, it causes horrendous problems.
Yeah, I was
It only
actually.
shows how good the background the background masking is with Zoom when you do turn it off, and you realise how many erroneous sounds come in, including Frank's heavy breathing towards the end when he was getting a little bit excited.
Yeah, I did mute Frank when he was off camera too, when his audio was coming up. So yeah, I did. Boop. Yeah. So yeah, good thing of being host and co-host. But absolutely. I'm just trying to think, was there anything else? And we definitely went much longer than David normally does, but any other questions from the YouTube sessions? I'll just put that one more time. And we actually have a few people still watching us there, so I'll just throw that out there one more time. So John, definitely going to be doing stuff this week, are you? With the hospitals.
Yeah, going to be doing
doctors.
Some data processing. Doctors. Yeah, but it's sexual health doctors. So how can I put this? If we ever got Zoom bombed, I think they would be more horrified than we would be.
Yes. So any disclaimers as you're coming into the waiting room? Viewer discretion revised. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Got it. All right. That's cool. All right. And Robert, did you disappear on us too? I don't see you.
No. I'm still here.
All right.
And just like to say my appreciation for letting me test out this Meme Live, because it's not that easy to get an environment where you can sort of play with these things. So this is
of course.
Robert, this is not supposed to be a blatant advert, but I belong to another group, and I wanted to show off their product, but for some reason it doesn't work on this Zoom, so I will work through that. But I do have a facility that allows me to share a Zoom meeting with, I think it's about 26 bots.
What's the definition of bots, John?
They are 5-minute looping videos, 26 live videos that are just looping.
I would really appreciate
bots.
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Zoom
so
bots.
it's a Zoom simulator effectively, and there are, I think it's like 20 something, I think, short videos of zooming around. So if you get an audience, because I have a trick, but I want to show it off, but I have a trick that allows me to bring the audience onto the stage with me. But for some reason it's not working in this version of Zoom, so I'll have to go back to the guys. It works on my version of Zoom, it works in the simulator, but I don't know why it's not working on this, so I'll have to find out that. But yeah, Robert, if you want to come on, and I can get us on the simulator, and you can try some layouts with many more people.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Because one of the challenges is, of course, cutting a show, switching from people to people, and then in the different formats. So.
Is that Zoom room or meeting restarted every day too, John, or no?
No, it's when it's working, and obviously it does go down sometimes because of compatibility issues, because it's a little bit bleeding edge. But yeah, it's available effectively 24/7 for the members who have joined this software group, and it's our simulator. So most of the people that are on it are magicians and other people like that, performers, and so this gives you a chance to effectively create Zoom events that don't, it's not a webinar. It's just not you just talking to an audience. If you're doing card tricks, you want to pull people onto the stage and show them things and kick them off and bring the next person on stage and do things like that. And so this simulator has lots of little Zoomies all sitting there playing their tapes, but it means you can practice your pressing your Stream Deck buttons and bringing them on stage and talking to them and then kicking them off and bringing the next person on stage. And it's got other little things like we've got a voting wheel which works off the chat, and so you can put keywords in and they'll do things like you can get them all to say yes, you can get them all to come up with random places where they've come from. And this is all just little practice things that you can do to get the system working. It's quite neat.
This is John, the other John, and I'm part of that community. It's an amazing group. Magicians are very creative, but there's also people other than magicians there, and that simulator has been very helpful in testing things out, because it's hard to do a show. We were doing things with our parks where we'd say, call 10 of your close friends and say, can you give me a half hour to just, switch with you? But this lets you do it without being able to needing to pull that together. And their new version of Maestro's got even more impressive.
Well, John, I can't get Maestro running on this Zoom thing. I've tried 2 weeks running now, so I'm going to have to go back to the guys and find out why it's not particularly working on this version of Zoom, because it's getting quite stable now, and it's a good thing to compare with what Robert's got with the virtual cam. Yeah, I'm learning that software so I can write low-level API stuff. But if I was given a mission today, the mission I've taken is I want to get people more happy with using APIs. Whether it's an API to control your Stream Deck, it's an API. My flight simulators are great with APIs because that's how we get Microsoft Flight Simulator working with real joysticks. It's still APIs. The magic of getting an inquiry form and my doctors, you fill in an inquiry form, you pay your membership, you get booked on, and that's all you do. You just pay your membership, and then it sends you reminders. It books you into the medical meetings. It does all the Zoom registration for you, and you fall out the other end. And after the meeting, you can check the spreadsheet of those people that attended, and then those people attended get certificates of attendance, which they then claim for their training points. You can automate the whole thing. It's brilliant.
Well, I must admit, I was grinning when you were talking about, creating things with APIs, but that's one of the things that's happened with Zoom with their ecosystem. They're letting you reach so far into it that my judgment of when artificial intelligence hasn't become natural ignorance is when I could do exactly what you said, describe the show that I want, and it creates all the APIs, creates this control desk, and gives the instructions to the operator to run the meeting. Then
I confessed a little bit earlier, I am actually creating that. I don't know how far down the road I'm going to get, but I have a lot of medical meetings, and I'm sure you've all got your own version of it. We've all got meetings that we do over and over again, different speakers, different names, different documents, but it's exactly the same meeting. People turn up, they do a presentation, they disappear, the next person comes up, we do that over and over again, and we have to do it all by hand. But there's enough APIs within Zoom that I should be able to, as I said earlier, create a questionnaire at the beginning which asks you, how many speakers you want, etc. And I should be able to programmatically create the whole of the Zoom, the booking process, the whole lot is possible if I've got enough time to create it all, or I inspire somebody else to do the same. There's enough API knowledge in Zoom and all the other packages that you can automate the whole thing, and that will make life so much easier for all of us.
So, John, you and I should get together with the Oliver and Nemo Live, because they're doing it with 8, and the simulator you're talking about is just people nodding their heads and acting like good audience. We've been talking about creating little 15-minute shows that have real speakers and but do the ISO of it, and then give that to somebody.
All right, I didn't tell you this because I don't want the marketers to start doing it and ruin the name of Zoom. But there's something in Zoom called Simu Live. So you can do a pre-recorded Zoom, let's do this properly. You do a Zoom event, and you then realize you're going to have to do it next week, and the week after that. I believe there's a person in Zoom who does this, who has a weekly event where he's supposed to teach everybody, and he's done it once, and then he can send, or you can send the recording back to Zoom. Zoom will run the same event automatically, starting at the time that you said, and will run until your video is finished. And few people, unless you're really clever and you can tell he's a recording, but most people will not realize it's not live.
So,
it's the same version of Zoom.
Yeah,
and you can hang out in chat and answer all the Q&As in chat. As long as you don't have to answer it on the video, you can answer all the Q&As in chat, and nobody knows it's pre-recorded.
I need to give a little secret away. I work with the State Parks, and so they do regular visits. And since they're wearing the same uniform every day, we've done some things where the person said, that was so great that time. I'm just going to play that 15 minutes of the show, and then I'm going to do the rest live. And nobody knew the difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, that's using the old streaming technology that's been around for many, many years called
But it's built into
Simulated
Zoom.
Live.
But
Yep.
it's built into Zoom. You don't have to have OBS and get it to play a video. You can set up in Zoom, go on holiday, and the Zoom meeting will start the prescribed time, play the video, and close. And nobody will know it was different. And eventually, I know what's going to happen. You can predict me on this. Eventually, there will be trouble, because eventually marketers will just use it all the time, and then people will start losing interest in marketers, because we'll be back to the old days when they stopped using, WebEx, and they started using these third-party video playing tools that no one want to turn up, because if the host can't be bothered to be here to teach me the stuff, then why should I turn up to watch a video when I could have watched a video at any time? We're going to have that. We're going to go around that circle again, but it's.
John, I'll have to send you one of my cartoons. So, I've been in instructional technology and taught it for years, but one of the cartoons I used in a lecture was a lecture setup that had a tape recorder at the podium playing and little portable recorders in all the seats. And that was the class.
In 1983, I was in a teacher educational establishment, so we were teaching teachers about tech, and to show us what was possible, this guy turned up to do a presentation, except he never turned up. He was 15 miles away, and he used little robots, predefined videos. This is in 1982, to do the whole presentation, and he turned up 20 minutes in, and he started it all remotely, and then he drove round to us. 20 minutes in, he was there as the final, as the human. But before that, it was all done with little robots, little robotic arms, lifting up things, tape players playing. Frightening. And now we can all do it with an iPad.
You're home of the Open University, which England started back in the 70s with classes over the air, and then teaching centers and correspondence. So we're just, the technology's just catching up with us.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with all your conferences next week. I get just the phrase coming up, going mental, comes up to me.
Going mental.
The only thing that really catches me out is that when we get a good speaker, these are all regional groups. So when we got a good speaker, other groups invite the same speaker. And then I'm in deja vu mode, because this lady's doing this presentation. I'm thinking, sure, I've heard this before. Oh yeah, she said it 2 days ago. Well, wait a minute, has she got to that? And I get very confused very quickly.
And that's when
great.
John starts to that's where John starts to mute things, right? Going, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just shut off the speaker. Yeah. Been there, done that, right?
It's when they're late, when they're turning up late, and you're thinking, I wonder how much this presentation I can remember from last week.
Okay, if I could just change something, if you could just write down the name of that group, I'd like to figure out a way to join that group in the UK,
if
John.
not-
so that
Okay, well, I'm quite happy to share it publicly, but I'm not sure what the owner of it will say. So well,
John, what we
he
can
brings
do is
people in cohorts, so I will put it to you in the chat. But I will have a word with the person and find out. But
John, what we can do is, again, don't forget we're on YouTube. So again, we could always talk about this after we say bye to everybody on YouTube. So
Yeah, well, the other thing is he has presented on office hours, so somebody could look at it that way. And when they open cohorts, he does do a free public week-long training as part of his recruitment.
he is available, but with all due respect to the organisation, I wouldn't want 100 people to turn up and try and join his group, because it would just fall apart. So I wouldn't want him to get flooded, because I would lose the service.
that's right. That's right. And thank you for the link, Roland. In our chat, anyways. But looks like there are no other questions on YouTube, so we can say goodbye to our friends on YouTube. And even though David didn't say it, I will wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day on Sunday. I know that it's happening here in Canada anyways, but I'll say goodbye on this, and then I will just pin this, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody on YouTube and see you again next week. Next week, 3 p.m. Eastern. And
lots more updates coming.
Yes, lots and lots more updates, especially if you just joined us now, definitely go back to the beginning. And David went through some of the specific things that'll be happening next week. So from the gang here, we'll see you next week.